The wood grows around the walls of the mansus. As any student of histories knows, the mansus has no walls. Christopher Illopoli, Traveling at Night. Some of you may remember way back in ye old days. Me playing this thing. So why have I been gone for 2 weeks, especially for the folks on YouTube who are more likely than not? So in the absence of a survey of the people who watch my stuff, I draw inferences based on sort of the way people watch my things. And so I think actually the largest viewership of my Cultist Simulator stuff does come on YouTube. Now the live viewership, of course, is a whole other matter. The largest number of people concurrently watching it would be during the live broadcast, which is generally how I talk to people. But the crossover. So like chances are you found this channel, like speaking to the number of people who subscribe to the channel, the number of people, or the most likely, just based on, weighting everyone equally, would be, the most likely outcome would be somebody who has found the channel because of Cultist Simulator and wants to watch the channel because of Cultist Simulator. That's the Stellaris stuff and the Elder Scrolls and whatnot are kind of beside the point and not the reason people tune in. And so this means that when I announce stuff that is not immediately apparent to me on the Wednesday that I record Cultist Simulator, and by the way, for those of you who do want to watch live, I do my best to start at 7 on Wednesdays for Cultist Simulator. My official start time is between 7 and 8. Now, that didn't happen tonight because I actually needed food and whatnot. But I have a bit of a wide window just because work and whatnot. But anyways, the drawback behind this is just a massive scaffolding for the point that I was going to make, which was if something changes for me, it's easy for me to communicate that on the following Friday or like on a Monday stream or something like that. In fact, again, weighting everything equally, 2 out of 3, it's going to be a not Cultist Simulator day. And so, if I find out some change, I'm able to communicate that to the stream, but it is always sort of on the assumption that people watch everything. And the fact of the matter is, nobody expects you to watch everything. I wouldn't watch everything. And so the communication is always imperfect. And this is just the way the world works. Like, unless I do, 5-minute clips and I title them, big announcement, I'm not going to do Cultist Simulator on X day. This is just the way it's going to be. And it's, can't say that works, because I would prefer that the people who kind of come to expect the stream to happen at certain times, I hope that they are able to find what they need. But, this is the world I'm working with right now. So why didn't I stream? 2 weeks ago was Dirty Rectangles, local game dev collective. I get to meet a bunch of cool people there. There will be some games that you get to see in the future as a result of my attendance at these things. And just overall, it's really nice to be a part of, and now support. I gave a small financial contribution to a local indie dev scene, because these are people who are pursuing a passion and who, I'll definitely, it's like any, group. They're, you're going to meet a bunch of different types of personalities, and you're going to see a bunch of different types of games, and it's not everything is going to be necessarily to your taste. But I think, especially if you were to take someone who was, practicing music, and because it doesn't sound like, they'll sound after 10 years of practice, if you discourage them, they're never going to get better. So this is one of the reasons why I like going to and supporting stuff like that. The following week, I got a chance to meet a prof that I studied under. His name's Erwin Dewart. He is the guy in price index theory. It's if you've ever heard of inflation or the CPI, which normally measures inflation, he is a guy who has done a lot of very fundamental work in how those indices work. And those indices are really important because they do things like calculate real GDP, which is usually what everybody wants to talk about when they're saying whether or not things are good or not. So he was in town and I got a chance to talk with him. It was kind of funny because there was a guy who was a bit of a loudmouth and he was not giving a very convincing presentation on something, but I was able to offer an adjustment that seemed to work better, so I got the little feather in my cap. Not that, it didn't point to me and say, "You are the chosen one," and, whisk me back to Vancouver, but it was good. I had a good time there. It was really nice to get a chance to talk with him. I hope I will one day become even as half as smart as he is, and to be as sharp at his age is astonishing. But that is why I didn't do Cultist Simulator. I don't normally like skipping streams for any reason, but, I will at most get a chance to see this guy once a year, if that. So I figured it was a decent enough reason to do so. Now, there's been an update, about 22 megabytes, which I needed to download before I started the stream. So let's take a look at the version news. Version 2019 10A1. The game is now fully localized in Chinese. You can switch languages by hitting the language button on the main menu. Fixed occasional deck hint font size issues. Also, I don't think we talked about this change in September, but aspect detail windows will now grow with the text as necessary. Switching languages during a game session will now correctly adjust the timer's appearance. Adjusted a few labels restrictions in preparation for further localization work, and added a small note to the language selector. And apparently September. All right, some of these we've probably seen and I just wasn't paying attention to, but this, I believe, was previously only in the Gate of Horn branch, so now we are able to play in whatever language we want. Who's responsible? Design, writing, and coding, Alexis Kennedy. Production, marketing, and biz, Lottie Bevan. UI design and coding by Martin Erukar. I will, of course, take the moment to remind you that he is working on Nowhere Profit, which is now out and playable. I've done it a few times on stream, but if you haven't checked it out, I do encourage you to do so. Art by Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, Sarah Gordon. Music by Maribeth Solomon, Brent Barkman, Mickey Erb for Mickey Mar Productions. Audio by Soundcuts. Additional writing by Lottie Bevan. Additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, Mark Gagne, also known as Lyra and Hannah Rose. Additional design by Caroline Porter. Marketing and PR by Claire Sharkey. Chinese localization. I am unfortunately not going to be able to do a lot of crediting on this, so in the interest of fairness, I will just say these wonderful people. And finally, special thanks to Sonia and PK, Matt Hosty, Haley Urias, and literally everyone who's ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you. Without further ado, we're probably going to have a little bit of extended time on the paused table just so I can remember where we were. We are still was it this Masataka? Oh my goodness, has it really been? I completely forgot to change this. Sorry guys, just give me a moment here. This was the save that I did for that Steam stream. And I messed it up. Uh-oh. I gotta go back into the game. I need to find the directory, and then I need to go back in. What a way to start again. So for those of you who don't know, there was another Steam stream. Those of you on YouTube will know because there was like a huge, like 7-hour broadcast. The rest of you, yeah, there was a Steam stream, and I completely forgot to change it around. So we should be in good shape in just a minute. Okay, looks like I actually gotta close out to move all of these. Sorry. Once more with feeling. Abraham Van Eck is the man we're looking for. I was really, really, really worried when I saw that other table. So, have we finished all of our? Apparently, we have. So we've done all of the expeditions in the Lone and Level Sands, which means now we're basically we're going to Port Noon and associated locations, which means, of course, that I'm going to be trying to level up the secret histories. So one thing I can do to sort of make my life a little easier with these with these upgrades is I need illumination, so water fills the cup, light fills the mind. To upgrade or subvert this fragment, you'll need fascination, which might breed, an HQ with a library, right here, or the rarefied mind skill. I don't have rarefied mind. Aspect requires knowledge. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship. To upgrade or subvert this fragment, you'll need erudition or an HQ with a library. So I do have erudition at the moment. And aspect requires intuition. With time and peace, answers will sometimes come unannounced. To upgrade or subvert this fragment, you will need glimmerings or an HQ with a sanctuary. So in this particular case, I would want the glimmering to be to get the next bit. What I would probably do is use the library and the fascination, or sorry, the library and the erudition. It's perfectly reasonable to use the fascination in a case like this, but because I don't have sort of the direct need, it doesn't make as much sense. Also, I believe, yes, we do have the long flake, so we are a little bit... Oh, and the holiest Temolith. Interesting. So what are we looking at? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so there's 9 hours. Now again, I gave like a guess in terms of the number of memories that there would be. If they correspond to the aspects, it would be 8 or 9, depending on what you pay it, depending on how you feel about the secret histories. But probably better just for us to pursue. I mean, my strategy is not going to change based on either I'm going to finish the painting or I'm not. Like, I'm just going to keep playing until I complete it. So, fair enough. We've got all of the languages except... No, I think we have Deep Man... Yeah, so Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, Aramaic, Fusine, Frisian, Vac, Deep Mandiac. This gives me Vac. This gives me Sanskrit. So all of these will be sold. I'm just trying to think what else I need at the moment. For now, read whatever's to hand. The world is awash with printed words. Even the newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. So I suppose I probably started this around the... like, I probably got like a light in the skull or something like that. So glimmering is the next thing that I would need. Also, I need to find something to do with my restlessness. Am I... Yes, I'm painting with my restlessness, so we'll be okay there. Exploration, we are going to generate a notoriety off of that, but I don't think that there is much that I can do in that regard. Oh, actually, I already have a notoriety, so... we're getting a commission from Dr. Adim, and I'm healing up. So, the main aims that I'm going to have during this run will be to get a bit of a factory going in terms of generating the final level of secret histories. Obviously, I'll translate and do what I can with the voyages of Ferenshun of Oriol. Hello. Yeah, no worries. I also started late, Bormoth, and hi, Jean-Jacques. Sorry for anybody who... I'm sorry, I always pronounce your name wrong, but sorry for those of you I may not have responded to directly. I'm still trying to just find my way through the game again. It's the level 8 again. Yeah, I don't really need level 8, so I'm slightly concerned that this might get consumed if I explore with it. But yeah, so I think probably what I'm going to do is try and get a little bit of factory going in terms of converting Vagabond's maps into even higher abilities. We're doing okay for money, but I think I'm still going to rely on my reputation as a medium to just try and run out the notoriety that I get. So we'll have that done with Colors of the Night. I probably want to ditch the fascination with my fleeting reminiscence, so we will be okay in that regard. And how is the graveyard mouth? Non-existent. So... and I think we're ready to unpause. Secondary goal, which is not like this is really just for my own entertainment, but I would like to complete an edge and a knock painting, like super painting, if I can. But I don't believe I have either of those pigments, so we're gonna have to wait a little while on those. All right, Dr. Adim would like a commission on Lantern. Madame Bichet will pick up a commission from you as well. The one thing I don't need right now is corpses, actually. They'll turn into notoriety. Madame Bichet would like Moth, and Jannings would like... This is something special, it may provoke a reaction. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. Oh, that's right. Actually, I think I was banking a little bit on the possibility that painting would generate a glimmering, and it did. So that means I'm just going to be in a better position to... upgrade or subvert or otherwise improve that secret histories in 4 seconds. And we don't have any staleness, so happiness abounds. Let's turn this restlessness into money before I get in trouble. An expedition member has fallen. Our numbers dwindle. I probably should have paid attention to what was going on there. So Dorothy is currently wounded. I'm going to have a chat with her about that. Coming up, we need Heart or Grail. This is actually the one person I wouldn't want to... So yeah, we definitely had more than enough forage. We just got unlucky after that. So day after day, the sun tautens our skin, dries our mouths, floods our skulls with savage light. We might be lost. It's possible we're lost. So we needed to rush Dorothy back. Leo, we need you to help deal with the curse. Jannings would like a commission on Edge. So the words contain knowledge, now I contain it. It's a little bit like theft, a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. So we're in good shape for this upgrade here, so we're going to jump straight into boosting the Vagabond's map. History is less certain than we are taught. I can learn from the study of its blurred edges. And we will wait the 2 seconds to try and get Dorothy. So their wounds are grievous. Heal a fallen follower with talk. Dorothy's enthusiasm has become an obsession. She will not cease, and how she loves to dance. Compassion or convenience? So I believe we can only put funds in for healing. Perhaps now they'll survive, but there are limits to what the human body can sustain. Of course, the aim here is to try and generate as much mystique as I can to let this notoriety expire, as well as the notoriety I'll be getting from this expedition. Alright, I've been paid my fee. It's difficult to say whether I've earned it. Fortunately, it's difficult for them to say whether I've earned it too. So part of this is just to extend the restlessness. Sick room grows close and stale. It is time to get up. So, season ambitions, that means we're going to get a graveyard mouth. That's actually not terrible because we're going to be able to use the Elixir Zevoim, and we'll just, you know, either enjoy a little bottle of dead body or a little... I mean, I kind of see this the same as eating, like, crisps. Something tells you secret cult is about maiming your own cultists in expeditions. I mean, you don't have specialists, so you make one by scars. That's certainly one of the... I think one of the reasons why the scar mechanic was brought in was to try and give people a reason to... like, basically not make people so conservative with their followers. I still am. But obviously you can wind up with very strong... with some very strong results if you bring people on those expeditions. So obviously the best abilities do come from scarring them, especially because you can only ever get, like, in your own cult you can get the 10. Everybody else winds up, you know, their max is 5, and so essentially, if someone is scarred twice with a wound that is kind of their aspect, and then you give them an artifact, that's a way of turning them into the equivalent of what is it? It's an exalted. All right. Now I don't actually need to worry that much about the fascination because a minute will go by without it. I'm actually debating... I think I'm going to leave this hanging out for a while. I may come to regret this, but I'm gonna try something new here, and we'll use the Watchman's Glass. So the peacock door reflects my mirror, the mirror I hold in my sleep, and the mirror reflects the peacock door. Already a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture, and when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. Let's say more money for now. Who is that? Tall man alive. 8 months. Thank you very much for that resubscription. Back to Cultist Simulator indeed. I obviously said this at the start of the cast, but I'm obviously feel a little bad for being gone so long. But as it happens, you know, a prof that I don't get a chance to see very often was in town last week, so I took the opportunity to have a very good sushi dinner with him. Alright, a challenge, knowledge. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship, provide erudition, or use a library. So obviously we'll use all parts of the buffalo. I'll get the closer to expiring erudition anyway. Totally Not Valken says sushi, and you didn't share? Unsubbed. I really do like Oct's emotes. Totally Not Valken. So the wound is healed, but this one came very close to death. Silence has touched them like snow. As is appropriate. The sun is setting. We look back across the desolation we crossed, and at all the colors it assumes in the evening light. Night falls. Stars prickle. The wind presses cold The wind presses cold hands to our faces. Onwards. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I can do with talk. I think I'm going to hold off on repairing the mirror just so I can have one of each type of coin, but this does mean I should probably be working on some commissions. How are you lovely Cultist Simulator fans doing tonight? Alright, what are we looking at here? So our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. So we know we need to deal with the creeping breath curse. We know that we're going to need to deal with the dead, but we've already got enough to handle that. And we're going to need to deal with a hidden door. Oh yes, we're also not equipped for the door. Okay, well, you know what, Dorothy, you gotta face your fears. So we'll add Dorothy again. And then I'll probably throw a lantern or not. I think lantern is more likely here because I have more of them. And again, at some point I need to consider unresolved ambiguity. I can go War Museum or Red Church. Let's do Red Church. Amaranthine nectar, one of the flower maker's many gifts. In a brighter age, it may have bestowed immortality. In this blighted history, it is still an unparalleled sweetness. When I visited the Red Chamber last night, they told me, between their clawings and their caresses, that the flower maker has visited but lately with the nectar and his promise. I woke twinned in sodden sheets, with the amaranthine nectar brimming in my hand. I captured what I could of it, only a few drops, but it will be enough. Okay, so we've got another cracked mirror. I've got one more that I can go through. Let's do that now. Aha, there it is. Is that it? You've resolved a knowledge challenge. The taste, the particular taste, the taste which is neither fair nor foul, it comes to trouble my mouth again. My tongue will swell, my lips will blacken, the elixir has set its spores within me, and only dead flesh can quell them. I'm sure there are other things that I can do to try and help out with the talk and whatnot, but for now, I'm just going to keep with the same formula. Now, we're going to be a little late on the... actually, I think I want to preserve the longer mystique in this case. This is basically just to get rid of one of the restlessness. Challenge on intuition. Glimmering it is. Oh, I should be paying closer attention to the expedition. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. Not here, but... The dead circle the edge of our vision like frayed dreams. The very air around us is chill with winter's shadow. They must recognize that. So because we lost money on the expedition, I'm going to add funds here. What I'll do after the dead, I'm going to add a lantern follower. Actually, I don't even need to worry about heart because we're already there. So in this case, adding lantern is going to be the thing that gets me through the door. I was originally saying there's a chance if I didn't have points in either one, if I had the points in the heart but not the 10, what I was going to do was basically make it so that whatever one popped up, I would just need to add one individual to it, but I kind of already lined everything up inefficiently, so... Okay, well, I'll know this turns into a... I know this will turn into a fascination. This is almost certainly not going to be a secret history now, but I want to try it because I know I have a contentment coming up soon anyway, so if it's dread, who cares? I dreamt last night of the Worm Museum. The hours have set wards about it and warnings before it, but they have left it open to mortal adepts who can prove themselves by reaching it. Perhaps they hope to inspire revulsion against the things that bred in the corpse of the sun. Those things are here still, always dying, never dead. They came from nowhere, the warnings say, and if they complete their work, the Mantis will be nowhere one day. So obviously we need to get rid of that quickly, but I'll have the contentment in just a moment, so I'm not too worried about it. Still no good ideas about the talk verb, though. Day's work I have not shirked. This work I can be proud of. With enough publicity, it will sell. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So we did get some more mystique for that, which is always good news. We have some extra glimmering if I have the opportunity to get some more secret histories. I don't think that will turn out, though. We don't have any staleness, but we didn't really make that much money. I think we spent more time making that painting than we could have faked it with a seance, but... Here's a fun thing. Within the next handful of years, you may be moving to Canada. Interesting. Where in Canada are you planning on moving? The dead draw back, their almost faces flat and watchful. They will not trouble us. Alright, so we still don't know what's coming up next, but in this case... no, I should add lantern. Mr. Sleep. Fascination, use library or rarefied mind, so... There we have it. So I suspect there'll still be the notoriety, the old notoriety on the table when we finish the expedition, but it should be... If it gets to the point where there's two on the table, I have a feeling it will be one of my lesser annoyances to deal with. Alright. Again, more of the same here, just cranking out the seances where I can. Excuse me. Hello, Superidge. And you have no idea. At the moment, it's not a super specific plan, mostly just hinging on friends' decisions on jobs opportunities. Oh, well, I obviously think very highly of Canada, so I would encourage everybody to stop by. But let me know how that goes. You'll almost certainly be here after the election, so you can see if I'm really happy or if I'm really disappointed. All right, what else are we looking for? I don't have much to do with Dream now, so I mean, can always try to go down through one of the lesser areas to get other secret histories items, but it's not as pressing. Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably less exciting than what you were talking about. Hopefully less exciting. All right, our senses are sharpened. We should find this hidden door. And then we just add Cat Caro, and we'll almost certainly find this hidden door. So we're good. I'll need to put a little extra money in, and then we'll be on our way. So for now, I think I'm just gonna let all of this hang out on its own. I can generate things like glimmerings and lesser secret histories, but honestly, with 8 Forgotten Chronicles and 5 Forbidden Epics, I certainly do not have a shortage of inputs to turn, to produce unresolved ambiguities. I just hope that it doesn't come to that. You just bought this game. You will admit that you don't understand how to manage those cards, and you're not that good with English. You're from France. Oh, man. So, yeah, you are going to be in for a little bit of a time. So, Super, I'll tell you there are... So I think the English element is going to probably be the bigger issue. I think a lot of people say that they're very bad at Cultist Simulator, but they say so without the knowledge that everyone's bad at Cultist Simulator. Like, kind of the point of the game is that there's no tutorial, and it's all about figuring things out. And there's lots of little details that are sort of hidden in the wording and the text. So you'll notice for some of the earlier ones, so like an occult scrap, exploring with this scrap of knowledge may uncover secret locations in the capital. I mean, this is almost certainly telling you, take this card, put it in this slot, and something will happen. And as the game moves on, those hints become less and less. So I think at some point I learned that things that have the remnant aspect are things that I can eat using the elixir Zeboim. But that isn't necessarily obvious the first few times that you play the game. So I think it's really wonderful. Obviously, I'm very far into the game. If you have any questions, do let me know. But, please don't be intimidated by this board. Once you get to a board that looks like this, you've already demonstrated that you know enough to make the most out of them. But I will say, the game is very beautifully written, but it also has a very arcane style of, or very arcane kind of vocabulary. So, I have the benefit of being not only a native English speaker, but also somebody who probably reads too much and reads too many fancy books. Some of the terms are a little bit more familiar to me than I think the average player might get. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'll be clear with you too, Superage. Like, I think with most people, that's true. Like, even native English speakers will. On stream, I've gone to the dictionary with this game a couple of times, so it's you're pretty much in the same boat as everyone on that. So you didn't figure out how to use aspect. You mean like how to use these things? So like basically, this is one of the ways that you can. There's sort of 3 ways that the game communicates information to you. So one, if you pick up a card and you can use it with a verb that is currently idle, there's that highlight that goes around it. So, I can talk with Sulochana is what that's saying. Alternatively, if you click on one of the empty spots, the cards light up, so they say here are things that are potential inputs to them. But the way that it knows to light those up is it says, here are the types of aspects that I can take in. I can take a summoned, I can take immortal, I can take societies, I can take patrons, I can take lore, and I can take headquarters, but I won't accept anything that has the aspect of wary. So it's like, oh, okay, you'll take lore, huh? I'm like, Forbidden Epic. Well, Forbidden Epic is lore, so put it in, and sure enough, it says, speak of esoteric matters. So the thing is that this game is not fun to play if you just sit down and you, every single card, before you make a decision, you read all the aspects again. But being able to sort of, a lot of this game has a very consistent logic to it, which is one of the things that makes it so fun. So you can read and reread certain cards over and over again. But there's also certain implications. So here's one that you may not have noticed. You've got Poppy Lascelles. She has the aspect mortal. Madame Bichet, she also has mortal. And she can teach you Greek, and she's a patron and whatnot. And Count Jannings, he teaches you Latin, he's a patron, he's a tutor, mortal. And then we take Dr. Adim. Well, Dr. Adim is somebody who can teach you Aramaic, and he's a patron. But what's missing here? He's not mortal. So the game, I don't believe at any point comes out and says Dr. Ibn al-Adim is not mortal. It's left to the fact that there's the absence of mortal. I guess Miss Nanya wouldn't be mortal because she's a painting. But when you take a look at all of the other, quote-unquote human people, they all have this mortal. The reason I use quotes is that there's some stuff that I don't know if it has a mortal indicator or not. So that's some of the way, the game doesn't waste a lot. And the way it communicates things is sometimes very subtle. And that's one of the reasons why it's so enjoyable to play over and over again. Exactly. There's another person who I won't point out who's like that, but the fact that they're not mortal is a really big indicator that they actually wind up becoming very important to one of the New Game Plus endings. So, sometimes you can just experiment and see how it turns out, but there's actually a little bit of a thread that you can pull on, and the game, like I said, the game rewards attention. It rewards reading things. So I do actually read the lore fragments over and over again. Sometimes I don't get anything out of it, but it's a good habit to get into just because, even if I've solved a puzzle, it's neat to go back and see, oh, that's what the game was trying to tell me, and I just didn't realize it in time. I like that sort of stuff, so. Sorry, I'm very, very thirsty, so you're gonna have to listen to me slurp and gobble for a bit. All right, Course of the Heart. Whenever the principle of heart is implicated, I gain vitality. So we've got another restlessness that's going to pop up out of that. So we will throw ourselves into our art again. I might be risking. Nah, you know what? That's a little too much risk for me. So we'll go Mystique only on this. And how are we? Oh, supplies are low. Unless I send more funds, we will have to abandon the expedition. And faint lines in stone, a surface yields to pressure. We found it. The hidden door moves with a grating shudder and a shower of dust. So I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one that we know. So this is a Port Noon anecdote. Port Noon is where the long go to enjoy the sea and the sun, to drink from the spring that makes them forgotten, and to stay out of trouble. Mostly out of trouble. The stories you can hear in the Hotel Ciervo are golden dewed, quintuple distilled toast to memory, served straight up. Exploring with this scrap of knowledge may uncover secret locations in the evening isles where Port Noon is located across the great ocean. So the thing here is that Port Noon anecdotes are unique, so I will translate the Voyages of Furnisham Memorial, but I'm going to explore with this before I read it, because it's possible that I lose a really valuable secret history. But I will. So there's a temptation, of course, to use the formula on my components again. But right now, I'm going to focus on translating, and we'll get our memories in due course. Where was I? That was Fusine, right? Yeah. Lock the study door, the work begins. The impossible travels of a sea captain of the late Phoenician era, suppressed throughout recorded history. Those who read it were said to disappear. I'm tempted to actually just paint away this second restlessness that I get, so I can start doing some work on the commissions. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. We're almost certainly strong enough in heart to be secure against the curse. So I know I won't need money for this, because one way or the other, either we're going to get hit by the curse or we're going to bypass it. But we know that we'll pass it one way or the other. Hopefully there is a pause button. When you started, you didn't use it, so you're stressing out constantly. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that they deliberately kind of didn't hide, but they didn't draw your attention to the pause button. You'll notice I'm pausing all the time, so if you want it, it's right here. There's also a fast forward button if you want, but basically you can just hit space and you can pause things as much as you want. I have done a run where I don't pause and I just do things as quickly as possible. When I did the interview with the developers on the GOG channel, I played quite a bit like that because I wasn't going to be taking the time and reading the text. But I noticed that people said that they found it very hard to follow what was going on in the game in that case. So, and obviously my casting style is such to have a little more interaction with chat and to take my time and sort of explain my thought process. So I make very liberal use of the pause button. Austin Players SRL, does this entire game exist within the screen? Like, are you ever not at the table reading? 90% of the game takes place at the table here. And while I wouldn't normally have gone here, I'll show you the one exception. Which is, I think you may not consider it to be much of an exception, to be honest. But yeah, like the game takes place, it's a narrative card game, basically. So the best way to think about it is that you, the character, are represented on individual cards on this desk. So, you know, who are you? Well, you're your reputation, you're your knowledge, you're your associations, you're your possessions, all the goodies that you have. You know, your health, your ability to reason, or your desires and your wants. There's a lot of different ways that you can sort of define yourself. And then, of course, they interact with the verbs on the table. So whether you like to imagine the table as you sort of directing everything in the background, like the villain in some kind of a Lovecraft story, or whether you just sort of want to think about it being the process of studying and whatnot. The mechanics of essentially what you see is what you get here in terms of the way that the game interacts. It's entirely about figuring out how these different fragments of knowledge and these different things that you own interact with each other. The going away from the table bit, in this case, we're sending people out to do these expeditions. So currently these people are in Maya. There's a city here. We can pick over its remains like jackals over old bones, palace walls, buried roads, shattered fountains. Sometimes we may find the knowledge of the dead, and sometimes the dead may find us. And in this case, this is in a place known as the Lone and Level Sands. Alright, my recent work is considered significant. I may earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. So more glimmering, which again will be helpful if I want to try and upgrade some of these secret histories, but no indication whether or not I'll be able to do that yet. We don't have staleness for painting, so that's alright. And we did okay in terms of funds. I think I will take the opportunity to... So because my trips to the world of Dream have sort of been... They've fallen down because I don't have the Bronze Spintrea to repair the mirror. I think I'm going to paint away this restlessness. We'll start doing some more commissions, especially because I have, there's no shortage of stuff for me to do here. Also, Azoth, it is not a pigment. Just want to make sure that I didn't miss out on an opportunity to paint something really cool. All right, I've prepared the text for study. So the Voyages of Furnisham of Oriel has now been reduced to a travel log of sorts. I'm not ready to read this yet because I still need to use the Port Noon anecdote with Explore. But in this case, the curse shrivels. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I can do with the study verb right now, but there's really only one... Oh no, there is something I can do with the study verb. I can consume the holiest hemolith, faint traces of an enigmatic substance spilt in the commission of an ancient crime, tightly sealed in a glass ampule. Who will remember the barber's son? So, in addition to reducing some of my graveyard mouth, this of course will give us the memory that it contains. So I had wondered what the taste might be, but chiefly now my experience is that it is gooey. Alright, as usual, we spend the money on the pigments. It's never, especially with so much Mystique, it's never guaranteed we'll make our money back, but it seems a decent enough little chance that I'll run by with it. Alright, I have a memory of the hunt at which the wheel was first brought to Earth. So we have the Wildering memory. Sometimes we remember what was lost, even when we have forgotten what is gone. Paint with this memory to bring it to full awareness. And graveyard mouth down to 1. So again, I don't have anything else to do with the study right now. So we will also enjoy the long flake. Very little remains, but the taste, the unheralded taste, like consuming raw spice. And of course we will... Oh, actually, you know what? I made a mistake by not doing the Mystique thing, because it means that I'm going to get the notoriety is going to get picked up for sure now. Oh well. So, this is the one thing which debate... this is to answer your question, Austin players. Sorry, play SRL. This is technically not the desk. This is the Mansis. I think this is a really cool reveal, especially the first time you get it. Superage, gotta go. Thank you for the answers. Have a good night and a good stream. Thank you very much for stopping by. I hope you enjoy Cultist Simulator. And as always, feel free to stop by if you have any questions. You can also send me messages either on Twitch or Twitter or anything like that. But yeah, so in this case, there are multiple ways into the Mansis, and they all lead to different locations. So the wood will take you to places known as the Well and the Temple of the Wheel, the White Door, the Spider Door, the Peacock Door, the Stag Door, which is where we are right now. And in this case, let's try... The Painted River may give me fascination, but let's go for it. So we have a lesson learnt. I am ready to improve. Use this with your scholarship skill and, to improve the skill and gain reason. It lasts up to 5 minutes before it decays back to an erudition. The Painted River runs from a great chamber near the White Door, far through the Mansis, to its far edge where it enters a painted delta of far cloud. I voyaged half its length last night with a stern-faced captain beneath a rust-red sail. As the clouds rose before us, the sailors raised a yearning shanty and close-hauled the sails to best use the painted wind, and all the while the captain and I discoursed of the secrets of the House of the Sun. So, as you can sort of see, it's almost, you can actually see this almost represented in terms of the way the board is divided, but the sort of the world of creativity and dream and imagination and such, which you just saw, it can only be accessed through dream, and we know the way to many parts of it. And so because sort of the real world falls away and you're left with that map of the Mansis, that would be my candidate for like parts where you don't have where you're not at the table. But obviously the mechanics of it are essentially identical to they're essentially identical to the rest of the game. You still pick up cards and you still move it over, or you still move them onto things. So it's definitely a game that is, I'd say it's probably closer to like reading a book or listening to a radio play or something along those lines, which is it gives you a framework with which your own imagination is going to take you. And obviously, like I really like games like Doom and Wolfenstein, and like I'm a huge fan of the fact that AAA games just look so good and play the way that they do. And I like the fact that other people are obviously far more creative than I am, and I'm able to live in those worlds that they've created. But I also really do like Cultist Simulator, and I really like the world that's been built behind it. And a lot of other things surrounding the game really do lend themselves towards these ideas of... there's a whole sort of like ARG that's been going on in the background about this. It has a little something to do with the Bird and Worm Slider. And I haven't really participated in it, but Definitely, it's if you're the kind of person who likes reading all the item descriptions in Dark Souls, I'd say that that's a pretty good description of the temperament that this game rewards. All right, my recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly, and surely someone will buy something. So again, I blundered in the fact that I should have held off on going full-time on commissions. And so actually, no, I guess commissions still wind up giving me Mystique. And I certainly got a lot out of this one. Still no staleness. But it is entirely possible that the notoriety that we get from this expedition is going to burn me, so... let me think a bit. Yeah. Lantern commission. So he wants a substantial one. This may be useful for a commission. Actually, I suppose I could have painted with the Wildering memory. That might have made more sense. I guess I get the reset going on Adim first, though. I have a memory of thresholds ready to paint. So we have the liminal memory. We each of us have a memory of a moment when things change forever, though at the time we never knew it. Perhaps the world also has those memories. Paint with this memory to bring it to full awareness. And I don't have any more needs food-wise. Alright. The wind of Maya is a pettish wind. It tugs at our garments like a needy child. It tosses sand in our faces. It whines among the dust-choked stones. The desolation of the city is not quite absolute. There are pillars, arches, sand-blinded statues, steps to nowhere. At this point, I will read the Voyages of Furnisham of Oriel. Furnisham clearly visited the Mansus, sailing the length of the Painted River. He also claims to have traversed the sea of finest sand, to have dared the blazing waves of the sun's surface, and to have descended to an underworld ocean lit by lamps of black nephrite. This is because in 20 seconds we should be done the expedition, so we'll have the notoriety, but we'll be able to turn the Port Noon anecdote into something more useful. We'll probably have King Crucible and the Callagine have a chat, or maybe the Maid in the Mirror. I'm not sure which one yet. Callagine's probably more helpful to keep. We find relics in an abandoned chamber, which might equally have been a cellar or a shrine. The walls are cracked and sand is poured through. When we return to the surface, the wind is rising. It almost tugs us from our feet. Perhaps it missed us. So, Cat Caro's back. Notoriety's in. Our poor wounded Dorothy. Alright, Callagine, King Crucible, Maid. Okay, so King Crucible and the Maid in the Mirror are the ones who are about to expire. And I'm pretty sure all of this stuff we already have. Although we do have another watchworm, so a tiny pot of stunted, desiccated larval remnants from the First Worm War, rank with the power that inhabits dead hours. Aspect, lethal poison. Under no circumstances should you put this in anyone that you want to keep. Okay. So King Crucible and the Maid in the Mirror are going to have a chat. Port Noon anecdote's going to go into the explore verb so that we can preserve it. Across the bright far sea, Port Noon lies. Exiles, monsters, and visionaries have long favored the waters around it. Perhaps we shouldn't get too close, but it might be useful to get close enough. So it's going to be a minute that runs by. It's not great for the Callagine, which is going to be running low, but I mean, that's life, right? I only have so many spots. I can obviously, anyone except King Crucible, I can basically sacrifice back into a summoning. But the Maid in the Mirror is also sort of one of the lowest priorities to keep. Beyond just the normal, like, I don't want to lose summons. Because, of course, any of my winter follow. Speaking of... Oh no, we did lose one of my winter followers. I forgot to what, though. I finished the manuscript. So, the Unmerciful Mantra, Commission Lantern... We'll start work on the Moth one right away. Reason, passion. I guess I need to be a little more careful of my winter followers then. And Graveyard Mouth's coming back. We don't have anything to eat for it, but... Anyways, yeah. We can resummon a... one of these creatures if it really comes down to it. Alright, Fernisham's final voyage is to retirement on a peaceful island across the evening sea, where he identifies a spring whose waters will keep him safe. I will be forgotten, he declares, and this work my only trace. So it was the right call to explore with that Port Noon anecdote, because these are unique. There will only ever be one on the table, which means that we have 2 Port Noon locations while I have all my summonings up. So, with that in mind, what I will probably do... I'm either going to resummon the Callagine or the Maid in the Mirror. I think I'll resummon the Callagine first. And then we'll get that second location. We'll send everybody off to explore Port Noon. All right. So first up is Saint Tentro of the Deep Door. A monastery hangs grimly to a cliff edge. It should have fallen into the sea by now, but we have read the monks drown victims in a deep pool beneath to win the Sister Witch's protection from the sea. One more year, one more year. Okay. New anecdote. We'll get King Crucible and the Maid in the Mirror to chat again. And study-wise, there's really only one thing I can do now, which is to try and upgrade these Forbidden Epics and whatnot. So I need libraries and glimmerings. I might be shy on the glimmering, depending on how this turns out. But let's give it a shot. If we fail, then I just read a book of poetry. I need to make sure that I don't use the work verb for a commission. I need to make sure that I use it for the resummon. Also, by stalling out with the Maid in the Mirror and King Crucible, I've actually prevented myself from being able to turn in my commissions, but it's still the right trade-off. Okay, so this time we're going to do the Rite of the Crucible Soul. We'll put the Callagine in. We need some knock. And I can never remember. It's I think it's Forge in like winter or something like that. Forge for the Smoky Spirit summoning, winter for its binding. It must know who will rule it. And I better not get some fascination. So sickness is coming up next. If I can get some vitality, so much the better. Into the Night. Wisdom is a country, and these are its maps. Solve all the challenges on both fragments of lore to complete a research task. You can return to a task later if you fail. So we'll definitely lose the glimmering here. Whether I think that means we're guaranteed to lose the upgrade, but we'll see. Okay, provide erudition or use a library. Well, I might as well use the erudition that I have. Now we have the Wreck of the Christabel. A sea beast came to love this vessel, but when she would not return its affections, the sea beast crushed it. Even now, the beast will not leave the ship's corpse, bedecked as it is with occult treasures. We must dive carefully. All right, so let's just jump in because the summons are ready to go here. Let's we're kind of starting the expedition half-cocked, but I should still have enough with my people to be able to make the progress. So King Crucible made in the mirror, and money. The monks of Saint Tentretto will not be inclined to allow us to pass. They will hide their treasures well, and if we manage to seize them, no doubt they will pursue us with curses. So again, this is kind of telling me what I'm going to need to overcome them, but we'll get the exact readout in 30 seconds. Originally, I was going to go and sell like the Jumble and Sanskrit Reader and whatnot, but obviously, if we have people, we can, if we have people that we can throw into the mission right away, in my opinion, it's better to get that started. And assuming that the summon does not try to take back control, we'll be able to throw them into the expedition right away. Just received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So possibly by handing in the Moth Commission, we'll get some glimmering, but I'm not hopeful. It does give me a reason to do the Edge Commission, though. Of course it does. The summoning is struggling against my control. I could use reason to dismiss it safely, which is always reliable, or I could try to reassert control with passion, which is not reliable, or I could let what will happen, happen. All right, we're going to use passion again, but this is always risky. And we did get a glimmering, so we are going to be able to upgrade our lore after all. Alright, our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. We are going to need Heart or Winter to suppress the curse, so we're good for Winter. Monks, contemplatives, blessed or condemned to service here. They're bound to their curious vows. We can murder them or deceive them, but they will not be seduced. We've got more than enough edge for that. The Callagine would be good at deception, but we'll see whether or not that turns out. Finally, a hidden door. Hidden doors can be found with lantern or knock, which we have neither of. So in this case, we will we'll prep things by sending Slee in. Normally I do the Pope Clifton Cat Caro combo, but we're just going crazy here. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything I want to do with talk, but there isn't at the moment. Mastery regained. I'm succeeding. Okay, so in 4 seconds, excuse me. It doesn't really matter what happens with the Callagine anymore, because I need to bring 10 in. So in this case, we're just gonna excuse me. We're just gonna murder the monks. I'll add the money just to get that out of the way. And there's the glimmering. Sorry, I've been enjoying a beverage other than water beside here, and it went down the wrong way. My summoning will obey my wishes for now. Alright. So. Commission. I'm going to do the Edge Commission just because it generates mystique and whatnot. Before I move on to painting. I can have a chat about repairing a mirror, though, so... Valsine. Significant conversations in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? Also, I just want to double check something here. It's a silver Spintrea, so I actually could have been upgrading the Watchman's Glass. In this case, I'm adding the Callagine instead, just because it's easier to keep them in the world this way. I just need to remember to add money after the fact. All right. So I'm not exactly flush with cash, but I did have some savings, and in this case, it's probably better that I just deal with my sickness immediately rather than leave things to chance. So we got bleak thoughts. I don't think there's any way for me to generate despair unless something happens in this expedition, but their bodies lie in robed huddles, each indistinguishable from the next. Step over and move on. So the plan here is to try and exhaust as many of the locations as I can. I've got two sort of major ways of getting money if it comes down to it. But the plan is to try and get enough sort of artifacts to be able to fuel my study verb for the next little while. And then as I'm waiting to sort of upgrade lore and whatnot, I can go back to doing my work as a medium. So our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. I believe 2 funds will take care of the rest of the expedition, but I am going to need to add another lantern. Right, we finished the manuscript, so still waiting on Edim and Bichet to cool down, but we also have the repair. Just trying to think if there's anything I can do with the work verb at the moment, but I don't think that's a good idea. Well, no, it actually is a good idea, because what I should have done was done physical labor, and then I would have been able to use the vitality out of that. But second best, I can generate some mystique. And we are safe from the notoriety that we generated from the last expedition, but of course I decided to go plowing into the next batch of expeditions, so we're still on the back foot with those. Sick room grows close and stale, it's time to get up, and I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one that we know. So I'm going to hold off on trying to upgrade unresolved ambiguities and forbidden epics and whatnot until I can turn in more commissions, but there's a chance I'll get a glimmering out of that stuff, so. We call upon the watchman who navigates. Our senses are sharpened. We should find this hidden door. Cat Caro makes it almost certainly find this hidden door. Alright, the mirror is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. So before we go doing any more repairs, I'm going to turn this in with Jannings and get a new commission from Edim and Bichet. I also want to do as good of a job as I can timing out the... Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So again, we talk with Edim, we talk with Bichet, and I'm actually going to send one of my heart followers to go talk about what great people we are. My reason for doing that... the reason I want to do that is because... no, I'm not going to do that anymore because I've got Mystique. The original reason was going to be if the only thing that pops up on the table is notoriety, then of course the only thing that will get taken up by the heart group will be notoriety, but we'll almost certainly finish the expedition, so it won't matter. And of course the Callagine exists to get rid of the evidence anyway, so I shouldn't be too panicky. I am going to use passion on the study verb. This is just because it's going to take me a while to actually get the commissions done and the rewards for them. So I might as well generate glimmering through other means. Got a lantern commission first up. I think there's a good argument for me to paint the memories as well. Bichet would like a commission on Grail. That's kind of nice because it has the chance of triggering a glimmering just for interacting with Grail. Fate lines in stone, a surface that yields to pressure. We found it. The hidden door moves with a grating shudder and shower of dust. You know what? I changed my mind. Clovette is going to talk about what a nice bunch of people we are. So my reasoning here being that, this is almost certainly going to get me. I think this is almost certainly going to get me, get the notoriety in the detective's hands now that I think of it. I forgot I was generating another one out of that work slot. Okay, as much as I'd like to start on these commissions, let's get the memories dealt with. The wood before it's darkening. Its fruits poison green. It's carnelian roots. And just confirming, heart or winter will suppress the fifth eye curse, so we're okay. The wood before it's darkening, its fruits poison green, its carnelian roots. The moth's eyes are merry with hunger. He is hunting. The Elegist knows what is already lost. His power will almost certainly protect us. So this is where she scoops up the mystique. Yeah, that was the thing I shouldn't have done, but I'm locked in now. We can afford to... I'm gonna go for broke and combine the unresolved ambiguities first. If I need more mystique, I can chuck out another fleeting reminiscence. Of course, if I get a fascination, I can do the same. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. Okay, now this might actually turn out. So I'm going to send Clovette back into the breach. So in 17 seconds, this mystique will get picked up. In a minute, Clovette will take whatever reputation is on the table. And to my understanding, that should only be the notoriety, which will come after the detective has turned over. I may be wrong in how long it'll take the Season of Suspicion to turn over, but it's possible that we will actually get away with raiding this location. I won't be devastated if it doesn't work out, but I don't have the passion for the pale canvas. But like I said, there's the possibility that I can dodge the notoriety right away, so I'm not going to use the work slot on the fleeting reminiscence. We'll just do our commissions instead. And I've been neglecting the dream slot just because I want to be a little better prepared for getting the higher level lore if I can. And there's nothing for me to pick up. So this will be done in about a minute. But in 35 seconds, I'm going to pick up whatever reputation is on the board, so it's looking good. Alright, this is a puzzle with missing pieces. I may find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship, provide erudition, or use a library. Well, this is going to be the only erudition I can... Or this will be the only time I can use that erudition, so... The first tremors. Here we are in the cave of the deep sea pool. Beneath the monastery, dark water shivers in the light of our lamps. As we approach, the level of water suddenly drops. There are no tides in the sea. What's happening? Alright, so I believe the reputation gets scooped up before the detective wants it. If so, we're good. If not, I'm a dummy. And I'll make a little extra money because I know in 30 seconds it'll all be irrelevant. Nice. We have profaned the cave. Already the hours withdraw their blessing. The water sinks away, leaving the pool empty. Offerings lie on its bed. We must snatch them up quickly. Already the first tremors have begun. The forerunners of the long-delayed earthquake that the monks held at bay for so long. All right, Callaghan survived. Sleaze here, Maid in the Mirror, and King Crucible are getting a little worse for wear. We have a third cracked Watchman's Glass. We have The Scar in the Sky. Nin wrote this and came to regret it. We have Inam Capping Ing Lupur Garkle Krippus, in which 4 enigmatic figures tell stories they've heard over the years at the Roost, the secret location where the Aviform hours congregate. And Commandments for the Preservation of All That Exists. Black Ellie, Damascene matriarch of the Sisterhood of the Knot, was imprisoned by the Emperor Didius Julianus. She reportedly instructed that these secret doctrines be recorded in writing to preserve against their loss. Regrettably, the story goes, Didius Julianus ordered that the work be entombed with her in an unmarked sepulchre. So we're going to go straight back into another expedition. Maid in the Mirror and King Crucible lead the way as always. And so the wreck of the Crystal, a sea beast came to love this vessel, but when she would not return its affections, the sea beast crushed it. Even now, the beast will not leave the ship's corpse, bedecked as it is with occult treasures. We must dive carefully. Storms have lifted the Christabel from the sea to lay it on a reef, but a wreck with such a sad end will carry a curse, and the beast that once loved it remains here still. So I'm gonna guess we need at least Winter and Knock, but we will find out whether or not my guesses were correct. So the reason I feel okay running with this is I'm gonna have a minute. I know that this is gonna take me more than a minute to do, but the detective will finish its investigation in a minute, so. Optimism is the spice which saves. So let's. Oh, I'm not going to turn in with Adim. The reason for that is it will give me a mystique, which will extend the investigation. So I'm going to sit on my hands for a little bit. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship, provide glimmering or a sanctuary. Damn it! Should have thought that through. The liminal memory. The purple evening sky shot with red gold. And very substantial edge commission. So still same reasoning in terms of not handing in any commissions and all of that. I still want to try and starve the weary detective if I can. I've just put myself on the back foot as far as the expedition goes. Okay, I've given my agents the opportunity to serve. Let us hope it ends well for us all. So, Creeping Breath Curse, we need Heart or Grail. The younger sister, the mother of ants, was born among serpents. She has so very many younger sisters and can be defeated in battle or will respond to a mother's power. We've got the Western Sea. Most of these islands are well known to the histories, but our destination lies in wild, uncharted reaches. We will need Heart or Forge to survive. So we're good for... we're technically good for all of them, but I am going to bring... the dynamic duo to show off. The hunger that grows in dark earth, the taste, the particular taste, the taste which is neither fair nor foul, comes to trouble my mouth again. My tongue will swell, my lips will blacken. The elixir has set its spores within me, and only dead flesh can quell them. I remember the horned axe. I recall the scent of hawthorn. I recall purple evening sky shot with red gold. I recall their edges dripped where she had lately been at work. Alright. The sailor's surety. Our forge skills represent plenty of expertise. We'll almost certainly make it through. So we'll add funds. I am definitely going to need to consider a source of funds. And 54 seconds, as long as I don't generate any mystique or notoriety, we won't need to worry about the investigation. Alright. A puzzle with missing pieces. I may find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship, provide fascination, which may breed, use a library, or employ the rarefied mind skill. So, in this case, we will use our library. And we will do our best not to generate fascination. Wave-lashed and sea-spattered, sun-scorched and salt-stained, but here. We'll still need to add Neville, but otherwise we are going to... We basically just need to run out the clock on the rest of the expedition. Alright. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 memories, but it doesn't seem like the canvas is done. I must go very carefully. The memories that I need to convey will take flight from the canvas if I depict them too strongly. I will find those memories in the flesh of the dead, and perhaps even, if I must, in my own dying flesh. So I've definitely already followed the my own dying flesh instruction. That wasn't too hard to figure out. So the colors title, the colors that were, colors of the horizon, colors that will be, colors of the seven coiled, colors that are not black, colors of the double threshold. I haven't been able to quite reason through what the next steps might be other than to continue going on expeditions, which is why I've prioritized the creation of these secret histories upgrades. Anyways, while I'm at it, let's get whatever commissions we can out of the way, because I'm going to need to start making money soon. In theory, I could take this... Oh, what am I doing? I've ignored the Callagine for so long. In theory, I could do the reputation as a medium right now, and because I know in 12 seconds the Season of Suspicion is going to finish, but one funds isn't that big. Hidden Citizen, how you doing? I missed you too. Sorry for the delay in Cultist Simulator stuff. That just happened to be a little bit of bad luck in terms of how the scheduling worked. So the expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. So we'll add Neville immediately after this. Neville, get in there. The serpent's mouth is large enough to crouch in. Its tongue is the thickness of a man's shoulders, but almost certainly it will respect the power that we bear. I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. So, good news there. Now we can start turning in the... Oh, nope. I'm not ready to talk to Poppy. Not that desperate. Fill a commission for Dr. Adine. Guess we'll see a lady about a mirror in a little bit. Receive the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. Alright, perfect timing for the Grail Commission. Before I go further, I will take advantage of this fleeting reminiscence to turn that into money. I do at some point need to turn these into restlessness, but no point in rushing it while I'm building up my Spintrea collection. Okay. We'll start translating. So first the scar in the sky. These are almost certainly going to have sort of side effects, so I want to be prepared. I am unfortunately still conservative enough that I don't want... Like, I try to make it so that I'm only managing 1 or 2 fires at any given moment. In 18 seconds we'll be able to do another commission, but the commission's going to take a minute to do, so it's not that big of a deal if I get Valsine to do some repairs. We'll be behind a little bit, but not critically. And I do have a surplus of Silver Spintrea, so it's not a terrible use of my time. Back! Back! It's too much for us! Okay. So the serpent is possibly going to eat someone. We'll see. Sorry for all the creaking sounds. That's just the seat that it's reasonably new. It's just it's the way that it works. If I ever get a little uncomfortable or just want to try and tuck the thing in a little bit more, you tend to hear every gesture. So if I paid my fee, it's difficult to say whether I've earned it. Fortunately, it's difficult for them to say whether I've earned it too. And now we will do the very substantial edge commission. So again, that'll be a minute. It's going to be slightly more than a minute. It's going to be more like a minute and a half. Well, yeah, because it says 30 seconds. It'll be a minute and a half for the thing to run by. Our numbers dwindle. So that was a Maid in the Mirror. That's going to turn into Dread. So we have a chilly atmosphere. I don't think there's much that I can do about that, but the Season of Ardors is coming by, so I have... Yeah, this will basically become Dread right around the time I get a Contentment to deal with it. So we won't do any dreams, but I won't complain about it either. And we still have enough winter to deal with the curse. So we are okay. I've prepared the text for study. Next up, the Frisian book with the impossible to pronounce enigmatic figures. Again, serpent's mouth is large enough to crouch in, its tongue is the thickness of a man's shoulders, but almost certainly it will respect the power that we bear, unlike last time. Oh, I did forget to mention, by the way, guys, for those of you who want to see it, there will be a special episode of the Elder Scrolls Daggerfall tomorrow. It's a short one. It's sort of an epilogue because we did have sort of the final... We had the official ending yesterday. But for those of you who want to sort of see the last little bit of Daggerfall... there's about, I'd say, 90 minutes of content that'll be coming up tomorrow at 7, and of course that'll be going live on YouTube at the same time. So hopefully you enjoy it. It is a somewhat serious take on trying to do just a couple of things that I wasn't able to finish in sort of the main session. But I did have, I'll put it to you this way, I had a particular mind... So it's one of the few times I went and looked at something on the wiki before going out to do it. I have consulted the wiki for Daggerfall before, but it's usually during the cast when I get too frustrated to continue on with my own skill, or lack thereof. This time I actually went in with a game plan, and the game did something that completely made that plan... Like, it made that plan completely irrelevant. So I think I checked the wiki for one thing because it felt like there was a bug, but other than that, yeah, it turned out kind of fun. So I'll leave it to you. 7 o'clock, you can tell me whether you enjoyed it or not. And for those of you who watched to the very end, there will be hopefully a fun little surprise. Okay, as far as work is concerned, no more commissions to work on right now, so we'll pick up heavy things and put them down again. And in 4 seconds, I will have contentment. And if I have a particular friend, now it's time. All right, I am alone, but there's peace in that also. I'm happy, I think. The mirror is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. Random question, we came up with 2 business names. Which one sounds legit? Lay 'em on me, hidden citizen. Are you starting a business, or is this just for your own amusement? Is it Leverave or Tech Kiev? Oh, Tech Chief. It's basically like Achieve, but it's Achieve but tech in it. Tech Chief seems more like a proper legitimate business name. It's either Lever Ave or Lever Ave. I'm a little confused as to what I may be missing a reference in that, but at least in the case of Tech Chief, I know what you were trying to achieve with it. So that it sounds closer to a real business name in my view. Okay, we want to find another body to eat in a little bit. Alright, I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So, more erudition. Once upon a time, I might have been able to upgrade another secret histories, but it's a little late for that, so we'll just continue translating the books. And this fleeting reminiscence I'm going to turn into restlessness. So, share my recollections with Miss Nania. Miss Nania's eyes are thoughtful. It's completely random, just wanted the word rave in it, so people are raving about your business. Nice. You gotta have, like, new in the name, and what else? I remember reading, I think it was like Roger Corman's book, and he was talking about all these business books that he was reading and why he named his companies what he did, and they were almost always like the latest business book he said that like new in the title is good and makes people think of like, you know, state of the art or whatever. And there was another one where it's like, if you have red in the title, it makes people excited. And apparently like all of his business names have essentially come out of this dubious advice from business books. But I mean, he's also been successful, so I suppose I can't complain about that. The word new, yeah. I'll translate the last one, but I kind of need a better game plan in terms of how I'm going to handle whatever the side effects of reading these books are. Red Rave? I think that's a soft drink from Cot. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. If that isn't an energy drink, that would be a good energy drink name. All right, we have enough winter, right? Nope, we don't, because the maid in the mirror is gone. Oh God, we are in deep trouble. No, we're not. Oh, yes, we are, because it's Heart or Grail. Crap. I really messed this up. All right, well, nobody can die on this anymore, so Rhaenyra, get in there first. Let me just... I'm really curious. I know I might actually be Red Rain that I'm thinking about, but this is bugging me enough that I want to see the answer now. Yeah, Red Rave is an energy drink. It is by Lake Hut Incorporated. I can't even find a website for this company. Anyways, you too can enjoy 24 250 milliliter cans of Red Rain. That's right, Red Rave. Customers who also bought this item apparently also bought Red Rain energy drink, which is the one by Cot. Wait, that's also by Lake Hut Incorporated? That doesn't make any sense. Or maybe Cot sold it then? Maybe they just rebranded it. Anyways, it's lots of red for you to drink. if you are so inclined, and there's an Amazon link, which is not an affiliate link, by the way. That is just out of the goodness of my heart. If you want to drink some sugary nonsense, now you can. They say I can do the job of 2 others together. It's not true. Not quite. Okay. We've got 8 seconds before I can start doing my medium thing again. But maybe I want to wait before I... Oh, it's too late now. I've already got the restlessness. All right, we'll just build an empire of mystique. Maybe you should read read a business book. The Red Grail's hungers should preserve us from this curse. The Red Grail's vigor will almost certainly preserve us from this curse. Another fleeting reminiscence, and Dr. Adim would like a very substantial commission on Lantern. Alright, so Season of Despair, I want to mind my business with the Dread. I think that means I'm going to wait before reading... I'll wait for that to pass before I read the books. And Deshay would like a forge commission. And instead of waiting for Jannings, we'll just repair another one of the Watchman's glass. I was kind of hoping we'd get more out of the commissions, but it is what it is. Okay, Black Ellie, Damascene no, we already got all we needed out of that. I really do want to read one of these, but that kind of impatience will cost me. So let's do Passion. I think I'm going to need both a Passion and an Erudition, because I don't think this is going to last too much longer. But yeah, the idea will be once the Season of Despair goes by, I'll start reading the spooky books. I'm also going to take the opportunity to rebuild as much of my war chest as I can. And then, hopefully by then, we'll be able to upgrade another Vagabond's map into a Port Noon anecdote. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. Always happy news. This, of course, means that we're going to have notoriety to work with for the next little while, but that's a known quantity. We weren't surprised by that. More importantly, I'm making enough money and mystique that it shouldn't be a problem unless something really, really unfortunate happens. And we've got the 3 Watchman's glass here, so I should be in reasonably good shape as far as going to the Mansus is concerned. I'm actually reading a business book right now, but it's more on it's basically on like AI and machine learning and stuff like that. It's kind of neat. I actually like saying that I'm reading a book on machine learning and AI that is about it as in its broader application in the business environment. So it's like it's a book for managers who want to know about the technology, as opposed to here is how you apply, or here is how you do this stuff. Because I think there's a lot. I mean, it's nice that people are so ready to talk about these methods and all of that, but there is a very wide distribution in terms of, what is. I think one of the challenges that we run into with these subjects is that you want to make the material approachable. And this is both a sales technique. You want as many people as possible to be the target audience to maximize your, the potential value of your book. And I don't think anybody who's interested in teaching ever wants to intimidate an audience and, scare them off. And I know math is one of these things that really turns people off of subjects. But the thing is that in the interests of making things sort of friendly and approachable, I kind of think we've sometimes gone a little too far away. And actually, here's a perfect example. When people talk about programming and saying you don't need to know math, that's strictly true. You can learn Python and you can be a perfectly serviceable Python programmer without really knowing that much math. You're going to need to know basic operations, because at some point you're going to need to add two numbers together or something like that. But by and large, you are not going to need to be some kind of a math wizard to program. I would argue, however, you will be a very good programmer if you do know math, and specifically how to apply math to particular problems. So there was a game jam that I was participating in, and one of the things that I wanted to do was kind of generate these mazes that the player could traverse. So the idea was the theme for the game was what home means for you. And I struggled with this a lot because I don't actually have a very good idea of what home means to me. I didn't think it was that good of a prompt, to be honest. But I eventually took sort of my... This is obviously not related to Cultist Simulator, but some of you may find this interesting. So I took some of... I kind of took the fact that I was struggling with the problem. I came up with 3 or 4 game ideas out of it. And the one that I stuck with was this idea that, I've moved from Vancouver to where I live now. And I definitely feel that Vancouver, having been away from Vancouver, definitely feels a lot more like home to me, because it's, first of all, the city that I chose to live in when I first left home, or the place I grew up. And a lot of my social network is still there, and I do kind of miss it. But of course, there's that idea of, only being able to appreciate home, having left it, and so on and so forth. And particularly also this idea of me having to try and figure out how to describe home in a game, or what home means to me in a game. So I decided to go for something where you'd be a space traveler, you're lost, and you want to try and find your way home. So, you fly to the first planet. It's a simple little Unity thing. So it's the capsule moves up to the sphere and you push a button, and this is you interacting with the planet and talking with the people there, and you're like, hey, can I find home? Well, what is home? And you have to try and figure out where home is from someone who doesn't necessarily appreciate what home is. You're going to need to give them more. And so the idea to kind of turn that into a gameplay thing was that your species is randomly generated. So you begin the game with, to you, a very clear idea of what home is. The sort of way that I think everybody who sort of lives in a particular environment has, takes a lot of stuff for granted. But by interacting with, in this case, quite literally different people, as in different species, you gain little bits of information, oh, you couldn't be on here because this, combination of oxygen, nitrogen atmosphere would be suffocating to you. You want a planet of pure methane or whatever. And essentially, you'd have a few traits, and by searching for home, you begin to find out what all the different types of planets could be, and you gain the information in terms of what sort of candidate world is an eligible home for you. And then, through doing so, you also, you're also trying to find the directions towards a planet that meets that description that you're looking for. And I actually made it so that there were some species where you could have, just basically to make all of the values fit, there were a couple of like duplicate, there were basically like, these are deal breakers. So like you can't be a species that lives on, normal gravity planets and wind up on like some super gravity planet. That's a you cannot live on this planet. But there are ones where it's like, this isn't like your ideal planet, but if you just want to call it a day, you can colonize this. But basically, in addition to like trying to meet the theme, the appeal of the project was like, can I make... So essentially what this is, it's in one sense, it's like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? But in my opinion, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego is basically a maze. Now, it doesn't look like the kind of maze that you normally do in a book, but if you actually think about the way where in the world is Carmen Sandiego works, it has all of the traits that you would normally associate with a maze. So I kind of wanted to see if I could generate something like that to say, it's like, okay, I have a certain number of parameters and I basically want to be able to generate something that'll spin out sort of new galaxies. Basically, can you generate, some absurd number of different galaxies and random species that will always have not just a path to the ending, but like a normal human being would be able to find the way to this. And doing it, so all of this is about math, like eventually doing it, I sort of realized that the way that I was sort of building the maze in the game, if I applied the modulo function, so this is basically the thing that like it tells you the remainder of something. Modulo is super useful in a lot of math applications. Like we used it a lot in my math proofs class. But basically what it did was there was a bunch of nonsense that I was doing before, and like I was really making it a lot harder than it needed to be. And I found out that if I used the modulo function for putting certain things in this random galaxy that I was making, it simplified a lot of the steps that I was trying to do. There was kind of an overall structure that would always be true for sort of the sorts of maps that I was looking for. So the thing is that, I had a more or less working solution without that mathematical step, but I wound up saving a lot of effort, and I had something that I knew worked before I even wrote it because I knew the math behind it. And so the thing is that while school does a very good job of convincing people that they're not math people, you can actually, first of all, I think more people are math people than they realize. And second of all, knowing some math will make you, it will make you a better programmer because it will give you knowledge. Essentially, most programs are just basically representing things in the world as data and performing manipulations on those data. And so because some data is going to be represented as numerical values, if you understand the types of manipulations that you can do to those values, it's going to mean that you are going to be more effective at the thing you really want to do. Even people who make games, right? The people who do all the graphic stuff here, it helps to understand linear algebra. Like it's a very convenient way of representing what ultimately becomes a big slimy alien, but you have sort of these fundamental principles that involve putting images on the screen. And while even mathematicians I know don't like reading pages of mathematical notation without English exposition, it's one of these ones where I think because the pendulum has gone too far the other way, and people, in order to like sell people on getting into like STEM and stuff like that, they're like, oh, you don't need to know math to do this. It's like, yeah, but we also probably shouldn't be positioning math as this like obscenely hard thing that no mere mortal can do. So Yeah, math is absolutely good to know no matter what you're doing. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Emirates. I mean, again, like knowing math is not like it's not some super genius thing that people do, right? Like knowing math can be something as simple as like I'm able to calculate the tip without having to like pull out my calculator, right? 10% everybody knows how to do. Do you want to tip 15%? Figure out what 10% was, add half of that. Everybody knows how to take a half, right? That's really helpful stuff to know. And then if you understand that much, then really all that you're doing is you're saying is like, okay, so what allowed me to do that was I understand a little bit about how, division works, or I understand a little bit about how, basically I know how to get what I want. It's like, in order to get what I want, I understood, the following sets of rules, and getting quote unquote good at math, like, have some graduate degree in it or something like that. You're just learning another set of rules. They're admittedly sometimes really complicated one. I sure wouldn't be able to give you a proof of like Green's theorem or something like that. But, I haven't really needed to. I suspect that if I was, a professional mathematician, I would probably have a little bit more experience in doing that sort of stuff. So, again, it's everybody's, you've got a finite amount of time on the world. Maybe you just don't think it's worth your time. But I think we've done, like, because math has become scary, I think we're actually doing people a disservice by by kind of playing to their assumption that they're not math people. I actually really think we should be trying harder. So what I'm aiming at, whatever the default ghoul ending is, and hopefully we're close. Without math, you can't really advance it. I'm not so sure about that. Like, I'd put it to you this, like, in one sense I agree, because math just kind of, it's pervasive. Like, everything you need to do has kind of been touched by math in some way. But I also kind of want to restrict my comments to the things that I think most people are complaining about when they say that they're not math people. Like, I think basic stuff like addition and subtraction and all of that, like, I think most people can manage. But like modulo, not everybody needs to know that to be able to get ahead and work. Lifetime scientist engineer, pick a topic. Medicine needs stats, engineering needs differential equations. Sure, but I mean, like, I'd put it like, if you want to work in retail, right, you can say you need to know math for that. And I would agree, because obviously if you work in retail, you need to be able to make change and stuff like that. But I also don't really think that the people who say I'm not a math person are saying that insofar as they're, insofar as they're trying to say, like, I don't think they're trying to say it's like, I can't do basic addition. I think they're just more saying, like, if you were to sit me down and, I had to do some trigonometry or something like that, I wouldn't be able to handle it. And trigonometry is obviously not that hard. Depending on who your teacher was, always. Oh, I agree. I mean, I've told this story a couple times. I think I've even said this about Culta Simulator. Like, when I started in film, I knew I was going into film in like my last 3 years of high school, which is like the stuff that they look at when you want to go to university. And I like completely phoned it in. So, I worked as a camera assistant for a few years, and then, like Starbucks and stuff like that. But I considered myself a quote unquote not a math person. And I read a lot. I actually read a lot of philosophy. And when I did go to university, I mean, there's a whole story about how I eventually got to a point where I wanted to go to university. I was going to go for philosophy because that was most of the reading that I was doing. But I instead went and I took an economics course, and I fell in love with the subject. So that was how I switched to economics. But obviously, economics involves a lot of math. So I had to do some upgrading. I got like my grade 11, grade 12 math. I did calculus. I did, and then of course I wound up TAing some computer science. So I wound up doing like 3 different versions of like logic or like basic proofs classes. I technically didn't need to do real analysis, but like there's a bunch of topology and a bunch of like real analysis adjacent kind of subjects that you wind up doing in graduate economics math courses. And even then, like I still struggle when I go through a few of my textbooks. Like I actually have one of the Shams guides for linear algebra and a Shams guide for sort of mathematics for economists, which goes everywhere from like simple like a how do you solve what's the quadratic formula, basically, is like one of the first questions in it. But it all goes all the way to like optimal control theory and dynamic programming. So like some of the first year calculus stuff in there, it's like, okay, yeah, I know what a limit is. I know how to take a derivative, those rules have been drilled into my skull. But then there are other ones where I'm like, wow, I really don't know what's going on here. Some of the stats books that I read too, like I know how to get the result that I'm looking for, but I struggle with sort of the deeper understanding of what I need. But the big thing is that having gone from like learning to hate math as a subject from teachers who obviously didn't want to teach it, to looking at math and seeing it as a means to this end of following a subject that I had a real passion for, to finally, like I worked, there's a prof who did one of my math proofs courses. His name's Ed Perkins. I found out at the end of the year, after asking him some of the stupidest questions that I could possibly have asked, I found out he's actually a fellow of the Royal Society. He's a reasonably big deal in terms of probability. But he's an extremely patient instructor, and he did a very good job of communicating the beauty of the subject. And so obviously that was a long road for me. I had to find a subject that I was really passionate about, and I needed to put in the effort to sort of unlearn some of the bad habits and some of the misconceptions I had about what math was. And then finally go to a university to really learn to love the subject. But I also think that like if I can go from my extremely poor mathematical background to being able to to do a graduate, like, and the graduate program I went to for economics was not it is a reasonably good, it's a hard one to get into. Obviously I can only speak to my own experience, but I really mean it when I say that I know exactly what it is like to feel like you're never going to be able to get this stuff. And I can say with certainty that if I can do it, you definitely can. But I mean, then there's the question of, because I'm an economist, I also will say there's a certain amount of effort that you're going to need to put into to appreciate math. And is that effort, as your best option when compared to all of the other ones? Well, your preference is much better than I do. But yeah, I mean, in the end, all of this was just to try and convey that I feel that some of the machine learning books that I've read have swung a little too far on, don't worry about the math, the computer will handle it. And I think that's a really bad way of trying to understand that subject, because computers are very good at making... So when I say prediction, I'm not really talking about forecasting, although there is that. I think prediction in terms of being able to fit data and kind of fill in a blank of your understanding. Machine learning is really good for that, but you still need to make the judgment. And part of that judgment is deciding whether or not the tool that you just used was appropriate for the question that you asked. So, anyways, there is so much. Oh my God, yeah. There's a lot of everybody's coming up with their math examples here. Yep. Was it Bayes? I thought it was Bayes' theorem. Yeah. Well, I mean, math can just be fun. Math can be, if you like solving crossword puzzles, it's the same principle. But anyways, I do need to get back to the game. Otherwise, people are going to yell at me. So, but please do. I do like it when people are chatting about math stuff in the chat. So do carry on. The ship still stinks of the sea. A sluggish octopus crawls from our lamplight. The timbers are half coral. Where are the bodies of the crew? Only one survivor was recorded. Did the serpent devour the rest? We found the captain's cabin. The logbook is here, but its pages are a mass of salt cake pulp. Someone has scratched a closed eye symbol on the desk where it was chained. Beneath the symbol is a hidden drawer in the desk, which we can wrench open to loot its treasures. So we got the writhing call. Lay your hand on these tattered folds and feel their warmth. Leave your hand upon it, and it will explore the possibilities of embrace. We also got the frangiclave, which really helps. So there are keys that open doors, and there are keys that destroy them. So, unfortunately, the Callagine and King Crucible are going to go away. Well, we can still keep talking with the Callagine, I suppose. But let's try and make some money. So, Oriflammes... We will sell our jumble. Obviously, we're going to need to wait a little while to get ourselves set up with the new goodies. But I am going to start going through the Peacock door constantly, because the frangiclave opens all doors. A tuning fork hum animates the key in my hand. The Peacock's door groans in response. Already a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture. And when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. I started reading for erudition, but in this case I'm going to abandon it and I'm going to start reading these other books. And in this case, I'm just going to keep generating mystique until this notoriety goes away, and we'll carry on with the rest later. So restlessness is coming up. I don't need to worry too much about that. So let's start with the scar in the sky, because that's almost certainly going to generate dread. Each page of this book contains one word only, but as each page is turned, knowledge creeps in. Okay. So I should probably start digging up bodies too. Okay, so the fascination's a little tempting because I know I'm going to be getting dread, but let's do the Red Church. All right. Favor from authority is not too exciting right now, but each of the stained glass windows of the Red Church is devoted to a distinct appetite, and the scenes that they show are from life. Last night, in one of the uglier windows, I saw the appetites of a certain public figure satisfied in private. I know he won't want this information made public. Perhaps he will show me some consideration. So, as before, we're basically going to keep hammering through the Peacock door until we can find what we want. The auctioneer's gavel bangs, and apparently that was an expensive jumble. There was another thing I wanted to do with explore, but it escapes me now. So we want to sell these goodies, and I want to... Right, get bodies. We're at 3 and it can't be 7. I'm willing to risk it for a little while longer. And you know what? I'll let the Callagine expire too. No, I'm going to keep the Callagine around until the notoriety is gone. Change my mind. Again, it's unlikely that the notoriety will get picked up, but until it goes away, I want that to be a certainty. And of course, the danger that I have here is because I keep going through the peacock door, and it will potentially generate fascination or dread. There's always the danger that I have the wrong combination, which will sort of give me 2 dread at exactly the wrong time. But we have ways around that. I also have ways around if I run out of money, but we're in a decent enough shape that I don't need to worry too much about it. The final page is crowded. Each reader of the book records the same word. Now it is my turn. So we have the wolf word. When the forge is cold and the glory is dark and the wood is dust, perhaps the wolf divided will rest, but only until it can devour itself. This word almost expresses the divided one's hatred. Speak this to a hunter and it might drive them insane on the spot. So the rite intercalate. This rite recapitulates the sun's abominable fate. It is used in extreme times by foolish adepts. We'll move along. 4 enigmatic figures tell stories that they've heard over the years. The roost. Inam, has not the beach crow shared his treasures? Garki, not the rarest. He takes those things most precious, which he claims found, not stolen. Okay, got money from the other jumble. We're actually doing reasonably well for cash. And I do have the vitality from the... I think that was just... I think that was just from the restlessness. So after this trip to the peacock door, or I guess I have a minute. Yeah, we'll do another trip to the peacock door and then... Alright, let's try the War Museum. Could have been worse, but I do need to figure out something to do with this perfect Ross. The world is still as ice. Each movement is a journey. A 15th order influence. This might be the personal attention of an hour. This can be used in some rites to summon minions. If unused, it will become dread. Last night, I visited the Worm Museum, which is both within the Mansis for security and without for safety. The hours have charged the Colonel with its defense, and even the Lionsmith does not challenge him here. Winter is the chiefest aspect of this place. The worms thrive where things end. But they can also be ended, and they must if the Mansis is to endure. And this morning, the chilly certainty of the Colonel's hand still lies on my shoulder. Alright, I thought of some new IT-related business names. Sloppy Floppies, Anita Bit, might... It's been a productive few minutes for you, Hidden Citizen. Let's go back to Restlessness work. And I should probably drum up some contentment at some point. We've got the Season of Suspicion coming. Oh, damn it. Do I want 15? Yeah, I can handle 15 seconds. I could buy drugs. I don't want to buy drugs. So like I said, keeping the Callagine around until I know I don't need to worry about the notoriety. Okay, so time to paint. Which isn't bad, by the way, because that might get me some contentment. Now there's a bit of a dilemma. For 17 seconds, though, I think I'm going to paint with the notoriety. In this game, if you lose health, you're not sure you can recover from it. You can in... There's two ways you can recover from it, depending on how you've lost the health. So if you've just gotten sick, you have... Oh, yeah, it's getting spicy in terms of the consequences of my actions. So if you've just gotten sick, then you can restore it with vitality right away. If it's decayed into decrepitude, there's absolutely things you can do with decrepitude. So far as I can tell, there's no... In terms of... Okay. In most circumstances, to my understanding, there is no way to get to, like, permanently 0 health. Right. I believe there are ways to sort of like annihilate health. So I think there's a point where you will reduce the maximum overall health that you can have inside of the game. But I believe that for all practical purposes, other than like that ceiling, there are actually several ways that you can get health. You can get that number to change. So if I wanted that number to be something other than 4 right now, there are a few things that I could do to make that number higher or lower than 4. And things that are like me deciding to do. Okay, the beach crow, Cappy Ginging Luper, sorry, suggests is not only a thief, but also a spy and even a voyeur. He has a hidden memory of the secret couplings among the hours and their names in the corner of the house as treasures to gloat over. It's a particularly fevered speculation on a liaison between the Ringyu, that fervent hour of the wood, and the mare in the tree, who sometimes has been the witch's sister. So fascination and dread, and the mare in the yew. Now, what I was kind of hoping to do, and I really messed this up, was I wanted to see what I could do with the right intercalate. So we have the perfect frost, which is 15. We have the wolf word, which would be 29. Oh, we've got a gaunt woman who is silent, so that would be 39. We've got the division bell, which would take us up to 51. I think that would cover it. Might be missing something else, but it's a pretty decent little sum. All right, let's keep reading. Black Ellie, Damascene matriarch and sisterhood of the Knot, was imprisoned by the Emperor Didius Julianus. She reportedly instructed these secret doctrines to be recorded in writing to preserve against their loss. Regrettably, the story goes, Didius Julianus ordered that the work be entombed with her in an unmarked sepulchre, and this is the commandments for the preservation of all that exists. Which gives me 100 contentment, clearly. Nope. And we got 2 funds for Gartside Sanskrit Reader, which is more than we would have paid for it had we actually bought it. Suspicion. And of course, Season of Despair is coming up. It's like the one thing I can't handle right now. This goes from 15 to 10. I think I'm gonna have a chat with Miss Nania just to try and I've got a few too many spinning plates right now, so I need to just cool it a little bit. Do I go for the unresolved ambiguity like a wimp, or do I try for something bigger? Let's see what's in the red church. Oh, that's a shame. All right, an incardinance. The very air is succulent with possibility. Pierce it, and it might bleed. When one dreams of the Red Church, one hears the voices of the Grail's names, the Thirstleys, and the Ivories, and the Lovelies, and the rest. Not all Impausi are women, they might be heard to say. The hungers of women run no deeper than the hungers of men. But a mother is never far from her child at its birth, and that is not always true of a father. Come closer, and we'll show you what we mean. Okay, so I need to decide the order of things. I think I can live without the affliction being cured, and I have enough time on the vitality, so we'll go for composure here first. Unlikely I'm going to be able to do anything to fix that dread, unfortunately, but I will work with that later. Now, I feel like there was something I wanted to do with the talk verb. Right, Misnania and the restlessness. So the Calagine's basically expired. Let's search for promising cemeteries. Now this is going to involve a little bit of juggling because of course corpses can be picked up by the detective, but that's on me to track. There's a possibility I get contentment out of the painting. Well, even if I do, we're still going to get a season of despair before I finish this, so. Passion. More mystique is always welcome. It's a couple of glimmering if I feel like upgrading. And still no staleness to my genuine surprise. I'm really curious. I just want to see how well I can do. It looks like the watchworms are the I think it's the division bell that's better than... yeah. So yeah, in theory, we could have brought that up to 63. Unfortunately, my desire is currently occupied. Wait, where is my desire? Oh, it's currently occupied by the Explorer. Yes, I have the phone. I have it on iOS, which means I have it for both my phone and my iPad. Last you played this, you thought the best way to max the health job first, but then when you lost due to some events, you never reclaimed it. I'm not quite sure... I think I might know what you're referring to, but I'll put it to you this way. The priest playthrough involved... The priest playthrough is where I found out how to mess around a lot more with the different levels that I have for these things. It's definitely not obvious. Okay. It is essential that these protections be completed every 4th year to defend against the entry of the worms and against the avidity of the wave and the wound. In the current history, at least, there is no indication that these protections have been performed regularly for at least the last 1,000 years. And we found the unceasing mysteries. The Grail ripped the Thunderskin from flesh. The sister and witch were born from 2 wombs. The velvet woke when the wood roots tasted blood. The heart is blood's drum, and here is its secret doctrine. Use this and write with a Byzantine tinct or a meteoric bullet, or other resources of equal power to summon a percussicant. Also, did I read the Marin U? The real hours don't meet the gods from nowhere, but the Ringyu meets the mare in the tree where the wood grows lush. Their couplings, are forbidden, and the forbidden things have power, and this is the story of their couplings. Alright. So normally I'd be reading these other books right now, but I want to see if there's any other... is there anything else I could be doing with studying right now? Suppose I could try and upgrade the Forbidden Epics for getting another Unceasing Mystery, but I'm convinced we'll wind up with another Vagabond's map before then. So I want to leave the study open so that I can start eating corpses. And I want to leave the work open so that I can paint with the Dread and try and buy myself some time to use this in Dream. That's the painting with Dread is actually the less likely of the options because I also still need to recover the affliction. It's gonna take a minute. Yeah, there's really no good way for me to handle that, actually. Yeah, I'll still run with it. Alright. Oh, right. Doesn't count. Okay, that was just, for my... That was more so for my curiosity anyway. So... I guess I can... Yeah, I'll try keeping the Callagine around because there's really no reason for me not to try that. I can go... Okay, I need to think about this. So I can go for a Hail Mary at the Ecdysis Club, but I don't think it will accomplish what I think it will. So in 11 seconds, Season of Despair comes up. I can delay that a little bit by painting with the Dread. So let's say I do that. It's still... Right, it's still going to cycle through... Okay. It will be the way that I deal with it. I want to deal with my affliction first. I will paint to delay the activation of the Dread, although I don't think it will actually accomplish a whole lot. I am, however, going to use the Cemetery. I could have got the Callagine to help dig up bodies now that I think of it. So, pawn. So it's 30 seconds. I need to make sure that I have a corpse ready to eat before anything else. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the bitter atmosphere ticking down to something scary. Oh, this is probably going to get picked up by the... Yeah. If I wanted to do that, I should have done that a lot earlier. Oh well. I mean, if I'm feeling really saucy, I could just paint with the bitter atmosphere, but... Not really, because the... you can get staleness with painting, which means that it's not worth as much as it used to be. Okay, so Affliction and Vitality first. Okay, I've got a corpse to munch on now, so let's say... the elixir, the corpse... the desire. I should have read the text. Once again, my appetite rises, flecked once again with the shivers of revulsion. And explore-wise, let's try the Ecdysis Club now, because then we might get contentment. So the entrance is lost beneath the soft drapes of crimson cinnabar and intercardine. Above the door, this is the club motto, Ingi rum imis nocteat consumi merigni. It has been rendered as, into the night circle we fly until the fire enjoys us. So yeah, my main source of income is usually the reputation as a medium, and that's because that generates mystique, which is rather good for burying notoriety. While moths eddy through the hall, they perch on the brims of wine glasses and sip. The audience applauds. The woman on the stage moves as if she has too many limbs. Moths crowd my arms, nestle against my shoulder, and in a little while I'll step outside and look at the clear, cold stars. Assume I dreamt the whole thing. The smokes of the club are treacherous. So I did get the contentment that I needed, so I'm happy there. I believe we'll get this contentment before the dread activates here, which means that the season of despair will go away. Got buzzing in the brain. Ingirum imis nocteat consumi snip snip snip. Second order influence, apparent to the perceptive, instantly recognizable to an adept. This can be used in some rites to summon minions, and some minions will leave it lingering when they are destroyed. So this is going to turn into restlessness, but that's not bad because I can always paint away restlessness or turn it into fleeting reminiscence with Misnania. And now is a good time for me to pick up another body. Oh, nope. I'm going to wait the 2.7 seconds and that'll give me something to do with my Callagine. Again, I'm only keeping the Callagine around just in case it'll help destroy evidence. And that lets freeze up Count Jannings to have a conversation about a commission. There's sometimes something left over which must be buried again, but one can be efficient. So here we've got something profitable. I don't have anything. Okay, we'll just leave that be. This is something special. It may provoke a reaction. So, fleeting reminiscence, we've got... Okay, we did wind up with a contentment after all. But that's fine, because we may still be generating another dread, now that I think of it. Yeah, no shortage of mystique, so... There's always the danger that, just through random chance, the detective picks it up, but we've got a fairly decent stack of subterfuge. Okay, so we've got an icy atmosphere here, which will decay into dread. We can deal with that. This will turn into restlessness, which we can paint away, so I'm fine with that. For now, I am going to dispose of these fleeting reminiscences before anything else. Maybe we'll consider something profitable as well, and we'll carry on as best we can. Yeah, I've got enough time with something profitable that I can turn it into... Actually, no, I think I'm going to have to paint away the buzzing in the brain. That's not a huge deal, though. Okay, 21 seconds, so we're okay to dig up another corpse. And I will have a snack. Once again, the appetite rises, flecked once again by the shivers of revulsion. The sick room grows close and stale, time to get up. So when this chilly atmosphere turns into... Well, it won't matter because both of these contentment will be gone. Never mind. I'm going to take the opportunity to paint away this last fleeting reminiscence. Or not paint away, medium away. We will actually paint away this restlessness, and that's mostly because I'm okay with money right now. It'll give me an excuse to do more commissions. Although I don't have much of a reason to do the commissions anymore because I have the Frangiclave now. I always keep forgetting to read the text of getting the corpse. Okay, how are we for... I still need to get one more, so we're 49 seconds away. I will send the Callagine. So I will paint the restlessness, just hope... Okay, well, contentment's been taken care of now, so no worries there. I still need to paint away the restlessness, though. I don't feel that lucky, so... So if I want to turn that into a restlessness, I should be able to, but I want to take advantage of the something profitable and something shameful first. There's sometimes something left over which must be buried again, but one can be efficient. And the shovel strikes wood. That's a good sign. If the coffin is too far rotted, usually the remains are scant. Hello, the cool eagle. That's the way it's meant to be played. Although what I really should do is I should hold the stream hostage by like if I don't hit some kind of like a donation goal or something like that, I turn off the snap to grid and just like mess up the board. For those of you who do not know him, the Cool Eagle is a guy who plays video games on the internet. I don't really watch him that much, so like, you know, he's probably plays like stuff. Now, Cool Eagle plays a lot of strategy games. He's actually been playing a lot of Stellaris lately. I always kind of like to tout him as a BattleTech player because I play less BattleTech than I should, and I always feel like I should play more BattleTech when I watch Cool Eagle. But he does quite a bit, and he's actually been on a big strategy kick. I mean, I think he kind of plays a lot of strategy anyway, but he has been on a big strategy kick lately, and it's not just BattleTech. He did Homeworld. I think it was just I don't know if he did the whole series, but he's definitely done the real-time, well, they're all real-time strategy, the more conventional real-time strategy, Deserts of Karak, as well as one of the originals. I don't know if you did just Homeworld 1. Okay. And again, obviously Stellaris lately, but he's a good overall variety streamer who has some overlap with the stuff that I do, but not so much that I would say it's like, if you like my stream, watch him. I mean, I can say that if you like my stream, watch him. But I can say that more in the spirit of he does his own thing, which happens to be very harmonious with the type of stream that I do. So. Also has been growing quite rapidly in terms of his audience, which is really, really nice to see. 40 years old? It doesn't count as a game if it's 40 years old. I don't think there are any games that are older than 20, right? Yeah, I mean, I find there's a mild shame in my view that Relic doesn't have Homeworld anymore. Obviously, we did get the benefit of the remastered versions of Homeworld, but Relic's a Vancouver company. Like, obviously, I want to see that in Canadian hands and see them, you know, do wonderful things with their baby. But I don't know. I'm happy enough with them putting out Dawn of Wars and Company of Heroes and Age of Empires now. That's a decent consolation prize. All right, there's sometimes something left over which must be buried again, but one can be efficient. So here, I think I'm going to talk with Miss Nania on the something menacing. All right, my recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So more contentment, but I don't really need it right now. More mystique. Never going to complain about more mystique. Still no staleness, and 4 funds for our trouble. Cool. Okay, time to earn more money. Something profitable. I've found someone who will benefit from this memory, and they'll pay well. Nope, didn't anticipate that, but I can just spend money to get it. I should be translating stuff now because we're done with the Graveyard Mouth. So, The Book of the White Cat, stories brought by Penelope of Gordian by a blind white cat. In Frisian. I need to be pretty careful with the Callagine in terms of just making sure I'm quick on the draw. We should be able to get rid of the notoriety naturally, but doesn't hurt to be careful. I apparently have forgotten that I still need to go through the peacock door, so Frangiclave it is. And I don't actually have any really good ideas about what I'm going to do about my Explorer Verb right now. I don't need corpses. I don't really need to visit the Ecdysis Club. There's nothing I can get from Oriflammes. And until I get more Port Noon anecdotes, I'm kind of stuck. So we both did well out of that, and my reputation is a little uncannier. So again, just taking advantage of the memories. This is the last draw. We'll see whether or not he gets the notoriety. Hooray! We can get rid of the Callagine. How are we doing? Technically, I have 19 minutes left on this cast, but I'll try and find like a natural break point. I'll like read all my books or something like that. But until we actually go and until we go to a new location, there's really nothing, like the only way I'll be generating dread is if I voluntarily generate dread. And I don't have anything that will let me actually paint like vital pigment has aspect pigment. What I'm actually looking for is purple pigments or green pigments, edge or winter, or sorry, edge or knock, basically, so that I can make my two last super paintings, and that's purely for my own amusement. But it's just one of those things. Okay, let's make some money. Prepared the text for study, and the Book of the Extinguished Heart, a book of melancholy prophecy. This will do wonders for my mood, I'm sure. Maybe I'll read this one first, and then read the Book of the White Cat. All right. I'm going to risk the Worm Museum on this one, but I feel like I'm making a mistake. That was a bit of a punch in the teeth. Last night I visited the Worm Museum, which is both within the mansis for security and without for safety. The hours have charged the colonel with its defense, and even the lionsmith does not challenge him here. Winter is the chiefest aspect of this place. The worms thrive where things end, but they can also be ended, and they must if the mansis is to endure. This morning, the chilly certainty of the colonel's hand still lies on my shoulder. So we'll pay for medicine, and then we'll go back through the door. Say goodbye to the Callagine, and Miss Nania will give me something for something menacing. So that I may go to the Ecdysis Club for the Perfect Frost, but we'll leave that be for now. And I should have talked with Miss Nania about the Fleeting Reminiscence to get some restlessness, but for now I'll make some money off of it, and then I'll go back to fulfilling commissions for a bit. If I ever get desperate for cash, I always have the option of doing physical labor, but we're currently sitting at like 26, 27. Yeah, 27. Oh, god damn it. That's too dread. Alright, fair enough. It's staggered enough that I can still get my contentment. So the tricky thing here is right now I'm running under the assumption that the memory I need is currently in Port Noon. There's actually no evidence that the game has given me that it's there. The specific wording that I've been given on the pale canvas is, I must go very carefully. The memories that I need to convey will take flight from the canvas if I depict them too strongly. I will find those memories in the flesh of the dead, and perhaps even, if I must, in my own dying flesh. So, as far as the dead are concerned, the ones that I can immediately think of that are relevant, I've gotten. The ones that involve my own dead flesh I've gotten, and so far as I can tell, the Port Noon areas are the only ones I haven't actually found artifacts that will give me memories. But we'll see, right? Like, that's the fun of the game. So what I'm going to be doing here with the Book of the Extinguished Hearts, in the days of the Shadowless King, Ennis Lasley was executed for prophesying the division of the sun. If any of his captors grew long, they probably feel rather abashed now. Lazali indicates that the sun will be divided in the Mallory by the Forge of Days, armed with the love in her heart. So in 1 minute, we're probably going to get another Dread. And then, of course, we've already got the Icy Atmosphere and the Perfect Frost. So this is a recipe for basically an insta-loss for me. But I also have mechanisms like the Ecdysis Club and drugs to overcome it if it really gets desperate. So it's a risky play that I'm making, but I'm opting into it because I sort of know that I have a couple of escape valves or safety valves if it really comes down to it. All right. Because I don't think I have enough risk right now, back to the Peacock Door, using the Frangic Glaive, just so I can get more dread. Of course, with relying on the Ecdysis Club, I'm probably due for like a Suppression Bureau raid or something like that. So that'll also cause me some difficulty, but there's not a lot that I can do to stop that. So while I'm waiting, I don't really have a lot to do with. Oh, but there's 30 seconds, so I'm just gonna wait for this to turn over. I don't really have a whole lot to do at the moment, so I can get a body out of the cemetery real quick. All right, the Book of the Extinguished Heart. Love will not be the cause of the sun's death, but rather envy. Envy will not be the cause of the sun's death, but rather thirst. Thirst will not be the cause of his death, but curiosity. Curiosity shall not be his end, rather it will be love. And we got a second right intercalate and the division of the names. When the sun in splendor was divided, its names fractured too. Here are the shards of their names, which once were whole. Use this in a rite with a martensite paste and an assistant dedicated to knock or other resources of equal power to summon a maid in the mirror. The Eyes of Sin. Hello. I thought you might be enjoying a nice Italian meal, so it's a delight to see you. How are you? The artist formerly known as Valken was displaying some of your works, and it made me very happy to see them. Guys, for those of you who don't know, The Eyes of Sin is a very talented artist, someone who delivers the finest emotes. She's the one who made the emotes for me, did a wonderful job of them, and charged way too little for the quality. Especially the first batch. I felt really bad giving her so little for them. But hopefully she's raised her prices. In addition to that, she's somebody who I'm always happy to see inside the channel. I will warn you, I'm probably wrapping up fairly soon, but I'm happy to see you. And ravioli. Oh man, ravioli sounds so much better than what I had for lunch. All right. So we've ticked Yeah, so I gotta wait to get my... No, I don't. I can go to the cemetery right now. Minion! Okay, we've got our treaties on Lantern. Let's do substantial on Forge. And because I don't have anything better to do, let's have a chat with Adim about his commission right away. Yeah, no worries, Bournemouth. Thanks for stopping by. We will see you next time. No, I don't want to be reading this because I want to eat the body. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Eyes of Sin as well, her favorite character is Rhaenyra because she's exactly like Rhaenyra in real life. Rhaenyra commands admiration wherever she goes. She reserves her attentions for those who merit admiration in return. Or is it Rose? Rose has sharpened her cunning to a concentrated point. There's actually one character that she has a trait in common with, but I don't want to reveal that particular trait. It's nothing unsavory, it's just... I kind of want to try the Worm Museum again on this, but I feel like it's not... Yay! We got it! Alright. The Vagabond is the 1 hour who can never enter the Mansus, but she goes everywhere else. And, if you believe her boasts, she's the only one who knows all the histories. Sometimes she lets someone record her travels. Size in the Mansus is negotiable, and so last night in the Worm Museum I saw one of the worms who took Vienna, caged next to a worm taken from the soul of a child. In dreams they are more visible than waking, smooth and dark as jewels. The walls bear stories of the First and Second Worm Wars. The third is too recent to have passed into the histories. So we're going to be able to upgrade this into another Port Noon anecdote, which we can go on an expedition with, but that'll still take a while, so we'll be patient. We've got another Season of Ambitions coming up, so I want to make sure that I get my... my desire reasonably quickly, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble. Alright. So, formula, dedication, food, and I'm just trying to think of the best way to handle all of this. Do I go to the... No, I won't go to the Igdisis Club until I feel like I'm in danger. So back to the Peacock Door. Obviously I got the Vagabond map, but I'll probably need more. And at some point I'm going to need things like, you know, the erudition, the glimmering, and whatnot to actually get this upgraded, but we can think about that later. Okay, so now I want to be really careful, because in 57 seconds we have Season of Despair coming up, and we're going to have 3 Dread on the board, which is enough to end the game. So, first things first, let's go to the Igdisis Club. Maybe that we wind up generating some notoriety, but tonight's performance, Amethyst, a net-wielding hunter, pursues a veil-winged woman through a murmuring maze of leaf-clad dancers. Each movement is underwater slow. I finished the manuscript. Okay, so Madame Bichet can get her commission as well. We'll do a heart commission while we're waiting. There's sometimes something left over which can be buried again, but one can be which must be buried again, but one can be efficient. So let's take. Nope. Can't use something shameful if it's already occupied. Let's risk it and do the Book of the White Cat. So the aviform hours, the crow, the laughing thrush, the dove, the twin kites have been known to meet at to meet in the mountains north of Gordion at a place called the Roost to exchange gossip. Penelope indicates that mortals who hear their words directly are obliterated, but claims that her cat goes unnoticed and returns with her rumors from the hour's meetings. So the plan here is that I get the contentment from... Oh, well, in this case, the fascination. You know, the smarter move here... So I've got 42 seconds on this, so I should use... content... Or, no, hang on. I gotta think about this. I use contentment to annihilate one dread. The other dread gets taken to... Okay, so what's going to happen is I will use this one of these contentment to annihilate one of the dreads. One of the dreads will then get taken into the season of despair, and the dread that comes out of the icy atmosphere I will annihilate with the fascination. And then I'll need to generate another contentment some other way, but I can work with that. Alright. As yet, I have only the needs and desires of any other mortal, but what stirs inside me? I'm also going to need to find something to do with this restlessness. I mean, I could use my reputation as a medium, but I might actually paint just to try and take advantage of the... situation. Alright. Madame Bichet has given me a bronze Spintrea. I might just repair the mirror so I can have a little space. I know that sounds really stupid, but I kind of want to do that. And actually also might give me glimmering. So that's another reason I might want to... Or, no, hang on. What am I thinking? It won't give me glimmering. Turning him with Count Jennings will give me glimmering. I may be more reluctant to go to the Worm Museum this time, just because if I wind up with another dread, I put myself behind the 8-ball. See, normally if I have a fascination here, there's like a vagabond map behind, but I'll go to the Red Church like a good boy. Alright, that was the right call. There weren't really any good options there, so... Each of the stained glass windows of the Red Church is devoted to a distinct appetite, and the scenes they show are from life. Last night, in one of the uglier windows, I saw the appetites of a certain public figure satisfied in private. I know he won't want this information made public. Perhaps he'll show me some consideration. Okay, so first things first, because the contentment's the closest to expiring, we will use that. This dread's going to get picked up by the event, but this dread I'll convert with the fascination in 40 seconds. And then I'll paint away the restlessness before I use the something shameful. The something shameful will get me more money, but painting the restlessness may give me contentment, which helps me with the event that pops up. Alright, so no surprises there. Although this restlessness is making me a little nervous. Of course, if you wind up with a dread from the study here, that throws things off. Nope, we're good. The stories that Penelope claims as our gossip are fragmentary and confusing. Fragmentary and confusing. Accounts of contests where hope and dread and the Shadowless Empire are used as game pieces. Agendas of ruin and remembrance from no known history. The most interesting element is the protective incantation she records at the end of the book, after she worries that the Hours might in fact learn of her spying. And we have a Velvet Charm. So, the Velvet always answers no, but we can shelter that no like beasts in the crook of a tree. Use this right with a Byzantine Tinct and a Meteoric Bullet or other resources of equal power to summon a Percussagant. So, I don't think we'll ever have... I mean, I could... degrade the White Ceremony to completely fill up my stacks, but I'm gonna save that for a special occasion. Okay, so Jannings will get his Heart Commission. Actually, we might as well give that to him now. Again, he may give us a Glimmering, which helps us with our mission, and we will paint away the restlessness. Less about the money, but where did the restlessness go? This should have an impact. Less about the money, but I'll still use the reputation just to be able to, you know, boost myself. I'm a little tempted to go to the Ecdysis Club, but I think... yeah, we're going to have a Season of Visions coming up. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait a little while on that. Or, does that make sense? I should probably just go right away and see what happens. Okay, so we got the Glimmering. That makes me happy. So now I can use my study to upgrade this Vagabond's map. History is less certain than we are taught, but I can learn from the study of its blurred edges. So we've got the erudition, the Glimmering, and the library, so we know that we're going to be able to get past that. I mean, I could theoretically use the Fascination, but given that the Season of Visions is coming up, I don't want any chances of that actually turning into something regrettable. Again, I'm not sure about this choice about going to the Ecdysis Club, but we'll see what happens. And spend money. You know what? I probably should have seen if I was going to get contentment out of painting first. Looks like we're getting the drinks, the songs, the light, the arching walls, the smoke blue haze, the press and sway of clothed and unclothed flesh. So I will have a contentment to deal with the situation. The doors of vision swing wide. A little darkness will mellow my light. Even dread has its uses. And if I want, I can turn this fleeting reminiscence into a restlessness when the time comes. I've purchased pleasure. I reel home in the ungodly hours and collapse into bed. I have not shirked. Still don't have anything to do with the explore verb yet. Oh, but I can get another commission from Adim. Alright, so let's see. I got another Glimmering. I did get a contentment, so the trip to the Ecdysis Club was a bit of a waste, but I couldn't have known that, right? I do have one staleness, so at some point I would like to... I'd like to turn that into something productive. For now, clandestine consultation. My reputation as a performer is ruined. My reputation as an oracle has only begun, but the authorities have their eye on me. And Dr. Deem would like a commission on the secret histories. I may not do it, but I at least have the option. Want to do the medium thing. I probably should be turning that into restlessness right away. I don't think I have enough time. I think I'm just gonna wait on the work verb now for the 27 seconds. I could have timed that out a little bit better, but I wasn't really thinking, so. 6 seconds I'm okay with, though, so let's just take that fleeting reminiscence and turn that into money. And reputation, but that's less pressing. I think I'm gonna wait. Actually, you know what? I'm okay, so. Another fleeting reminiscence. Let's just keep going back to the Peacock Door. Because again, I think there's more than 3 locations in the Port Noon anecdote, so I'm still going to need to get some more. Obviously, we'll deal with the substance of that in a future cast, but I can at least get myself set up so that next week we jump straight into our work. So obviously, I would have wanted to, you know, use the medium job to get rid of these, but it's not like. I'm not going to be so twitchy over my options that, you know, I have to use. I'm going to convert this back so I can use both of these. I'll at least get the next Port Noon anecdote, and we'll probably call it there because I don't have any more books to read at the moment. And glimmering it is. So the new stuff, actually, so I am surprised at how little I've needed to go out of my way to generate glimmering and erudition through manually putting passion and reason in. I felt like I've needed to a lot more than I actually have. And it's one of these ones where I suspect that's intentional and I'm only just realizing it now, but it is a thing that I rather respect about it. Like one of the things that I like about it is how it makes it very natural to do a little bit of painting, to do a little bit of another job. Like basically there was definitely a time when painting was a little too effective at generating cash. We're definitely not in that world now. And instead, you can actually, just by using your work verb in a lot of, like in a variety of ways, you tend to be able to satisfy a lot of your other needs. And I like that touch. Because again, it's never fun to just sort of have a dominant strategy for one verb and just constantly redo it. So I think some of the complaints about the grind at the end are addressed by that, just because you have a little bit more variety in terms of what you're doing. So let's try the Red Church. Could have been worse. The Amaranthine Nectar, one of the flower maker's many gifts. In a brighter age, it might have bestowed immortality. In this blighted history, it is still an unparalleled sweetness. When I visited the Red Church last night, they told me, between their clawings and their caresses, that the flower maker has visited but lately with his nectar and his promise. I woke twinned in sodden sheets, with the amaranthine nectar brimming in my hand. I captured what I could of it, only a few drops, but it will be enough. So, back to the Peacock Door. You give me a frangiclave and it's the only thing I know how to use. So we'll talk to Jannings about a commission, and then I think we're going to have a chat with Malcine about repairing the last mirror. Oops. Jannings would like an edge commission. Obviously, we still need the bronze Spintrea for it, but we have a small surplus, so we're good there. I'm technically condemning myself to an eternity of investigation with this, so maybe I will paint away the restlessness, especially given the fact that I can put so many passion in. Library it is. So this will give me a chance to sort of kill the mystique before I go on my next expedition. Also give me a chance to fulfill some of the commissions, even though the commissions obviously aren't as high of a priority right now. So, skill. Let's do 3 passion and 1 mystique. In this case, I'm trying to get rid of the mystique, so I'm putting the one with the smallest value in. I may wind up generating a fascination, but obviously the Season of Visions is going to be gone by the time this is finished. Let's try it. Yes! Size in the Mantis is negotiable, and so last night in the Worm Museum I saw one of the worms who took Vienna, caged next to a worm taken from the soul of a child. In dreams, they are more visible than waking, smooth and dark as jewels. The walls bear stories of the First and Second Worm Wars. The third is too recent to have passed into the histories. Now, the nice thing here is that I don't need to worry about developing a second Port Noon anecdote, because my study verb is already taking it up. But obviously I want to be a little careful if I wind up getting to the point where I have sort of a total of 4 Vagabonds. Technically I have 4 Vagabonds map on the deck right now because, or the table, because I still have a half minute before this turns into the anecdote that I want. So with all that in mind, I want to be a little careful that I don't wind up with 2 Port Noon anecdotes on the table at the same time, because that will mean one of them deletes itself. Just like what happened with the right intercalate. I'm not 100% sure why that is. That might be just a holdover of what happens. Like, it might have been just some coding which says, like, all level 14 lore gets a unique one, or there might be some lore reason that I'm not familiar with. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. Okay, you need money for repairs. But yeah, one way or the other, I just need to be a little careful of the Port Noon anecdotes. Now I understand. So one of the nice things about this, the way this painting worked, so you've got 2 on the board right now, but this is going to take 52 seconds to degrade. So essentially, this is like getting rid of a mystique. It's a little hard to predict because the timers don't always line up as nicely, but in this case, it was a bit more obvious. I mean, you also generate mystique for painting, so it's not the best strategy in the world. But I've minimized the effects of preserving mystique by doing it that way. Obviously, if I wanted to extend the time that the Weary Detective's working on, I'd probably keep some of the higher value ones set aside, and that's because you know that at some point some of the mystique is just going to decay on its own. So if you can try and maximize the likelihood of some of the ones that are getting older to be taken away, that will give you on the margin a little bit more. And if you turn that into a regular habit while you're just trying to wait for the 3 or so minutes that your notoriety is going to take to go away, I don't remember if it's 3 or 5 minutes. But obviously, if you keep adding that up over the time that it takes for the detective to actually go through all the cards, that can translate into 2 or 3 extra mystique just by managing the timers appropriately. Okay, so everything that we own is repaired. I have nothing to do with the talk verb now. I suppose I can do commissions though. So let's very substantial secret histories. That will also generate mystique, so that's another question as to whether or not I actually want to do that right now, but I'll think about it. Alright, I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one that we know. Port Noon is where the long go to enjoy the sea and the sun, to drink from the spring that makes them forgotten, and to stay out of trouble. Mostly out of trouble. The stories you can hear in the Hotel Ciervo are Golden Dude quintuple distilled toasts to memory served straight up. So we might as well, so 1, we'll just look at the almost complete column, and then 2, across the bright far sea, Port Noon lies. Exiles, monsters, and visionaries have long favored the waters around it. Perhaps we shouldn't get too close, but it might be useful to get close enough. Alright, now I want to be a little more careful with my choices. The Worm Museum might actually give me something here. I'm going to be a wimp, though. Hey, that turned out. How ooh, this glimmering's actually going to last me, so... I saw the Red Church again last night, with its pews of bone, the stained glass and shades of ruby, the golden altar that beats like a heart. That night, the names of the Grail gathered to speak of the Long, who'd sworn off the pleasures of the bedchamber, say between a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. They still pay the tribute of delight, an Ivory said. They do not bear fruit, a Lovely said. If the Forge and the Sun had only joined, a Thirstly lamented. Then they fell to gossiping of the Long in the house of Leith, and their deeds in the desert. I remember it still. So that's 2 Port Noon locations we just earned for our trouble. Let's study it. Of course, the next step is going to be to try and get my little menagerie of summons back. But we're obviously going to be waiting a while for... Oh, hang on, I don't have an erudition. I can technically get by with a fascination. And I might get... Oh, you know what? It's a Deem, so a Deem is almost certainly going to give me an erudition for completing the commission. I'll feel bad if I don't get it, but... I probably just got lucky here. I will do the Frangiclave just because I may wind up with an influence which is helpful in summoning something that I want. Also, it's likely I think there's more than 4 locations in Port Noon. If I don't get the erudition from a Deem, what I'll probably do is I'll use the library and use the glimmering, and then I'll just use the library again. But let's see what we get. So like the idea here, the cost is that you basically wind up doing 30 seconds for the initial Into the Night, so you can't just like... I think the reason this 30 seconds for Into the Night exists is that if you didn't have some kind of a setup cost, the optimal strategy for upgrading a Secret History for me would be to run it, don't even worry about getting the erudition, just hit it once with my library and my glimmering, let it fail, then go back and hit it with the library again. But if I do that, I waste a minute of setup time. So, Hannah Axel says, "How do you make money early game? It's really frustrating that painting was nerfed." I actually prefer that painting was nerfed. It depends on what your legacy is. So, thank you very much for the follow. Sorry, I can't see with this new setup. It's Senjai. Thank you very much for that follow. So it depends on your legacy. Like, the standard for aspirant would probably be to go to Glover and Glover. So in my case, as the medium, the most common way that I use it is to use my reputation as a medium with restlessness. And in this case, I actually embrace the fact that I generate a lot of mystique. Because I use that to sort of string along the weary detective while the notoriety expires on its own. Obviously, if you don't want to generate a lot of mystique, then you'd probably want to do something like go to Glover and Glover, or I mean, it's not that painting won't generate money for you. It's just that it doesn't generate this obscene amount of cash. And so what you need to do is you just need to make sure that you're finding the right balance between your money making and your passion work. So essentially what the painting nerf does is it sort of forces a little bit of a longer term plan in terms of how that works. And then if you find yourself particularly desperate, you can always, you always just do your physical labor. And of course, it's never bad to have a couple of free vitality kicking around. So really, the ways of making money have they haven't really changed a whole lot. It's just that the better way to think about it now is, of the activities that generate money, which one of them generates a side effect that is the most useful to you. So Glover and Glover has the smallest number of useful side effects, but especially when you get the board seat, it's probably the best way to generate money. The reputation is a medium. If you don't want mystique, if you're scared that, your notoriety is going to be hanging around too long, then obviously doing a seance is not the smartest thing to do. But on the other hand, you can say, oh, I've got some notoriety right now, and I have some mystique on the board. Clearly the answer is to generate as much mystique as possible. And that's usually been the way. Because reputation's a medium gives you about 30 seconds. It takes 30 seconds to generate at least 1 funds. And of course, if you have other memories, then that can be 2 or even 3. So it's actually a very profitable way of running things. But again, if you don't know about the side effect and you haven't thought about how that fits into your overall plans, it can be something that hurts you. Physical labor is one of the worst payoffs because, at your highest level, I think it's 40 seconds and you generate 1 funds, but you generate a vitality. And of course, generating a vitality, if you're sick, it lets you bypass the cost of 1 to get rid of the sickness. So in practice, it's worth 2 because you get the 1 fund to pay the rent, and then you get the not having to pay the 1 fund for medicine. And so essentially, this has kind of always been how I've played Cultist Simulator. But the painting nerf is a little more subtle than I think people realized on it. What it really did was it promoted a variety of work actions rather than the one best way. And of course, if you're really desperate, you can always sell Spintrea. Lurking, this game is hard. You won once, but you have so much. I've also been playing this thing since the early alpha, so that's, it's a little easier for me. And Hyena Axel says you haven't got medium in your runs. I think you get the medium if you die to despair. But yeah, so in the case of the medium, that isn't an option. But obviously the physician is probably one of, depending on where you, again, it always depends on your legacy. If you're the aspirant, Glover and Glover is probably the best, dollar for dollar, but it makes a lot of demands on your time. If you're the physician, money is not a problem. Bright Young Thing, money sometimes is a problem. Depends how far in the Bright Young Thing. I wish you could roleplay my character. I tried to do that a little bit on a couple of the Steam streams, but more so in terms of making decisions that are in character rather than actually talking out the words. I think the problem is I'm a little too chatty on a live cast to do a proper roleplay. Even the Elder Scrolls playthroughs that I do, those are technically roleplay, but not really, because I always wind up doing goofy stuff. Alright, Raven Isle. An extinct volcano lifts its head from a fervid tangle of emerald jungle. Immortals fallen to the vilest crime of their kind are exiled here to roost, guzzling the blood and cracking the bones of unwary travelers. They must have acquired some interesting toys over the years. Okay, so we're on our way. I'm not going to be going for too much longer, but we'll at least see this through to the end of the research. So we'll do a forge commission because we're doing all right for money right now. Let's take some secrets. This may be useful for a commission. I may not turn it in because, again, it generates mystique, and it'd be nice to get the weary detective off the trail. Provide erudition or a library. I'm getting smarter. So you might try to get a board seat at Glover Glover. Mr. Mr. Alden is a douche canoe. Yeah. The board seat at Glover and Glover involves quite a bit of work, but so the trick about the board seat at Glover and Glover is you need to make sure you don't generate notoriety. But it's also, as long as you manage that, it does generate. I mean, it's like any position. Like the higher up you move, the less work you need to do, and the more money you get paid for it. So if you're the type of player who really wants to have like a huge stack of money, board seat at Glover and Glover is a no-brainer at that point. But if nothing else, getting rid of Alden at least gives you those other options for those side effects I was talking about earlier. So that getting rid of Alden is almost always an optimal strategy. Even I would argue, even to a point where like you could justify not going for the promotion at Glover and Glover right away, because I actually think in some ways, as far as time management is concerned, what you lose in the ability to do other things like get rid of despair, or not despair, but like not have restlessness turn into dread by being able to paint it away. The fact that having Alden as your boss basically removes those options. In some cases, getting promoted at G&G, if you're not ready for it, can sometimes be more trouble than it's worth, really. But that, I mean, everybody kind of has their own way of playing this stuff. So I could be just be talking nonsense. Okay, back to the Vagabond. I have read this a couple times before, so I'm gonna skip over it for now. Now I'm gonna get greedy. We'll go one more. I can never remember how many what is this called again? Evening Isles locations there are. We know there'll be at least one more. Because Raven Isle isn't, like, Raven Isle is unique, so I know that one isn't the last one in the chain. I'm just trying to think. Every once in a while, I look at the board and I just try and think if there's any other place I can be getting remnants for memories for. Because I kind of feel like we're getting close to the end of the painting. But it's not at all obvious that, like, there's no indication in terms of what the right number of colors is. Right now we've got 7. So if you said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, I mean, in theory, if there's supposed to be one for each standard aspect, then it would make sense that the last one is like in the Evening Isles. Just like all the other ones, there's always been some extra item that we pick up. But it's entirely possible that there isn't anything in the Evening Isles and that there's actually remaining components somewhere else that I haven't looked. Or there could be an item on Raven Isle and there's still, or not Raven Isle, it could be that there's something on the Evening Isles and another thing that I need to pick up. So, and of course this is why Cultist Simulator is fun, because you never know what you're gonna get. But it makes me a little curious if I'm just wasting all this time. Mind you, I like wasting time. That's the whole point of streaming, so. So I'm just going to let the Mystique run down. That's why I'm not turning in the commissions yet. It was worth a try. I dreamt last night of the Worm Museum. The hours have set wards about it and warnings before it, but they have left it open to mortal adepts who can prove themselves by reaching it. Perhaps they hope to inspire revulsion against the things that bred in the corpse of the sun. Those things that are here still, always dying, never dead. They came from nowhere, the warnings say, and if they complete their work, the Mantis will be nowhere one day. Alright, still going to be going into the Mansis. I am running a risk here by going to the Ecdysis Club because it's possible I get notoriety from it, but I do want to get that contentment. Dancer enters from stage left, swathed in red bandages, tight as tendons. She peels away one... she peels one away. Another. 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 Oh, damn it. This must be a trick. One cannot remove garments so softly that the bones beneath the skin are visible. Bone pink as peach flesh, organs nestled like grapes. The lights dim, gutter, go out, and the stage's red star with them. All our lips are dry. Alright, so no contentment out of that. I can, of course, try and buy drugs, but maybe we'll wait for the wait for the mystique to run out, and then we'll visit the Ecdysis Club again. So it'll be like 2 minutes. We can have a chat with the Deem about a new commission. This is the drawback about getting to the end game. I'm running out of space for my little verb diamond. And finally, they want Fascination, Library, or Rarefied Mind. So we did get our Port Noon. In 10 seconds, we'll have a commission from a Deem. Although, again, I should be considering making money. Secret Histories it is. And that's substantial. Oh boy. We'll try the Red Church. Alright, that could have been worse. Last night I visited the Red Church, where the Grail conducts its feasts. The light through the stained glass windows was all the spectra of red, and the names of the Grail labored to birth the new desire which had until today no name at all. I am sticky with the memory of it, and this morning everything I see is tinted ruby. So we do have a Season of Visions coming up next, so let's just get rid of that right away. And again, I'd like to visit the Ecdysis Club, but at the moment the dangers that come from that are notoriety, because it's the most likely time that the weary detective would pick that up and use that for evidence against us. There's a possibility we get Fascination from the Ecdysis Club, which would hurt me in the Season of Visions. And then, of course, there's the possibility that we get something nice out of it, and I wind up getting rid of the dread. But the thing is, I'm not really going to be generating dread unless I go to the unless I go back to the Mansis, and I'm not going to be going back to the Mansis until I at least deal with the Fascination. So I'm okay waiting a little while for the detective to stop looking. Okay. And that's just because eventually, like, in the long run, once this is done, I'm gonna immediately generate like three mystique from these commissions. At some point, I'm gonna wind up with a fleeting reminiscence, which I can turn into restlessness, and then I'm just gonna build another wall of mystique. All right. But first things first, we need to get another Port Noon anecdote. Well, sorry, we're getting a new Port Noon anecdote. I shouldn't be letting this go to waste, so let's just pick up heavy things and put them down again. So I need another Vagabond's map from the Mansis. I'll take this Port Noon anecdote and immediately throw that into exploration. Across the bright far sea, Port Noon lies. Exiles, monsters, and visionaries have long favored the waters around it. Perhaps we shouldn't get too close, but it might be useful to get close enough. So assuming that I'm able to pick up another Vagabond's map, turning in these commissions would give me enough glimmering and erudition to be able to to double up the map. Now, given the fact that there's 60 seconds waiting here, I'm going to hit a... Glimmering is usually harder for me to get, so I'll read the poetry. So the idea here is I may not wind up with another... I may not wind up with another Vagabonds map. It is actually more likely than not that I won't get a Vagabonds map after this trip. But if I do, taking the Glimmering immediately here and then spending 30 seconds to turn in all these commissions will mean that I'm able to turning in all these commissions will mean that I'm able to turn that into another Port Noon anecdote immediately. Also, of course, this is what I'm talking about when I say variety in terms of work. We got we didn't actually get a lot of money out of doing that physical labor, but I do have a vitality, which of course will now be used to cure the sickness. Now, do I want to do another manual labor? I'm going to wait at least till 30, but I think I'm going to let this run down a couple more seconds. We'll chat with Miss Nania about Fleeting Reminiscence. That'll turn it into Restlessness, and then we'll be using that with the Reputation as a medium to start building back my war chest. Now, the fun thing will be is if I wind up with something that makes me want to go to the Worm Museum. I think I'm going to do the Red Church. Oh! I think when there is Fascination, there is one version which... You know what? It could just be all totally random, but I feel like it is possible to get a Vagabond map, but it's also possible that you wind up with a Dread, so Amaranthine Nectar it is. When I visited the Red Church last night, they told me, between their clawings and their caresses, that the flower maker had visited but lately, with his nectar and his promise. I woke twinned in sodden sheets, with the amaranthine nectar brimming in my hand. I captured what I could of it. Only a few drops, but it will be enough. I've got 6 of these things now. I'll leave the dream slot open to cure the disease. I have Glimmering. I think I'm just going to grab another one. And we've got Fort Garrick. 300 years ago, a rapacious empire claimed an island ripe with tourmalines. Neither the empire nor the island are mentioned in any reputable history, but the governor's fortress remains. Perhaps his treasures remain, for that matter. Perhaps he does too. All right, now that, when he says perhaps he does too, that makes me think that there's a corpse here, which I can eat for a memory. But I am about 40 minutes over my limit, and it's actually past when I wanted to go to bed. So I think we're going to call that here for tonight. Thank you everyone for watching. It is always a delight to share this game with everyone. And obviously it's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to. So I'm still doing this. It is worth repeating that I am going to... So the live casts of Cultist Simulator are going to stop for a while after the Ghoul. The reason for that is not any dislike of Cultist Simulator. It is purely the fact that this is the longest run that I have had of Cultist Simulator without taking a break. Because I believe it's basically been since The Dancer. Like, I'm pretty sure we've been doing this like every Wednesday since The Dancer came out. I might be wrong on that, but I feel like this has been the longest stretch of playing this game. And the fact of the matter is there's more stuff I want to do. But I also understand that there is a big, at least for the VODs, there's a big audience for that. So the shift is going to be that I will do more Cultist Simulator as sort of pre-recorded stuff. And what that's going to mean too is I get to do sort of special challenges and stuff that I've been coming up with. So there's a couple of sort of novel ways I want to try the game, or some specific goals that I want to achieve, which don't make as much sense to do on a live cast, but for people who just like watching Cultist Simulator stuff, I think it adds a little bit of variety and puts some more fun inside of it. So Cultist Simulator is not going away forever, but it is going into more like I'm going to do pre-recorded videos rather than do it live every week. And then, of course, that will free up. What that'll ultimately mean is I'm going to be back to a format where even though there's still like Paradox on Mondays, I may be switching it up so that I can focus on a game on the Wednesday and the Friday. And what that means is I kind of get to just go through stuff a little bit faster. Because it used to be that I would mainline a game basically like every broadcast for the week. And I really liked that format. I still like the one where there's more, like where there's that dedicated Paradox Day. But the fact that now 2/3 of my cast in a week are dedicated to specific games makes it a little bit hard for me to explore new stuff. And the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of stuff that I've been sort of sitting on specifically because of this. So all that's to say is that we are going through to the Ghoul, but the Ghoul will sort of mean that that's all. I've done sort of one of everything in Cultist Simulator. There's still like a couple of New Game Plus and like the Apostle endings. I still technically don't have a minor Grail victory, but that's the sort of stuff that I figure people can see on a VOD or whatnot. I don't feel like I have to do all of those live on broadcast. And of course, I'm sure at some point I'll do Cultist Simulator live again. I just really want to try and get a little more variety inside of the broadcast, and I think there's enough knowledge now of the pre-recorded stuff to make it worth. The people who want to see it will know where they can get it, and the people who are kind of wanting me to maybe move on to other subjects will be able to see it. Okay, so apparently Blizzard just wants to mess with my computer a lot. I'm just trying to find somebody to host, so sorry about the ramble. What are we looking at here? You know what? I don't always get a chance to host this guy, so it's not going to be cultist related. Well, actually, let me just take a quick second here. Yeah, only one Cultist Simulator live. So, it's been a while since I have hosted this guy, but we've got Melee Mage. Melee Mage is a guy I met in Vancouver at a really cool video game bar called EXP. Now, sadly, that closed down. I'm assuming largely due to the rents in Vancouver and such. He's a really nice guy. I don't get a chance to see him as often on Twitch, but he's currently doing some art right now, particularly for Inktober, and I'd love to support that. So for those of you who are still hanging out, if you could come along with me to Melee Mages to check out his stuff, I would appreciate that tremendously. And if I don't see you on Friday, which is when I'm planning on streaming next, 1 week from now, we will be back with Cultist Simulator. But for those of you wanting to watch my stuff in general, there is a special epilogue for the Elder Scrolls Daggerfall that is tomorrow at 7. That is a pre-recorded video, so I'll try to be in chat, but keep in mind that I will not be able to reply in voice. Friday, I will be back to something. I don't know what I'm playing yet. Monday is Stellaris again, and Wednesday we'll be back to Cultist Simulator. So have a good night and enjoy Melee Mage.